Danielle Spicer,
Here.
Vice Chair Mike Gore,
Here.
Mark Sprague,
Here.
Peter Driscoll,
Present.
and I see Eric's connecting right now. So Eric, can you hear us? Eric, are you present?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You see me on video or no?
We can see you.
Yep, I can see you. And there's quite a few people. Oh, and now James is connecting as well. So I suppose we should wait for him. Hi, James. We're just taking roll call of the board. Can you just state that you're here?
You're on mute.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm here.
All right, thank you. We have a full board present.
Great. All right, Eric, if you wouldn't mind scrolling down the agenda. Perfect. All right. So our first one is Brian Boyle at 59 Stanson Road. Mr. Boyle seeks a determination from the planning board whether his barn at 59 Stanson Road meets the requirements of the barn bylaw. Thank you, Brian. If you want to go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Thank you all for the opportunity to present tonight. I prepared some slides to kind of give you an overview of the nature of the project, and then I'll run through those quickly and then be happy to take any questions you have. So that right there is a picture of the current barn. Next slide. Basically what we're trying to do, or what we'd like to do, is to convert our existing barn into an in-law apartment. So it would be a residential use. And so the determination that we're seeking is pursuant to subsection capital A, the accessory apartment section, as opposed to the accessory occupations section. Next slide. All right, so the principal dwelling is the yellow house on the left, which was built in about 1817 by two brothers who lived there. And then you can see in the other photo at the end of the driveway in the back on the same lot is the barn. Next slide. This is a just timeline of the original barn was constructed in 1817. In May of 1999, the original barn totally collapsed. And this was obviously 15 years before the bylaw, the barn bylaw existed. Nonetheless, at the time, the owners sought to rebuild on the same footprint. And you'll see in a couple of photos that they basically stuck to the original design as much as possible. And what we're hoping to do is to reimagine it as an in-law apartment. It currently serves as a 3-car garage. We don't have 3 cars, but next slide, please. All right, so here's some photos of the original barn, which the prior homeowners had left us. This was obviously before the collapse, but you see that it was sort of that red color. It had minimal windows on the second floor and then a few smaller windows along the sides. Next photo. Yep, there's a better shot. This is the southwest side of the old barn. And then if you advance, there's the collapse, which was again in May of 1999. Next slide. Yep, and so you'll see what they did was they sought an application for a demolition permit. They did contract with somebody to salvage barn materials such as beams and roofing slates. The roof on the barn doesn't appear to involve any of those roofing slates, but they did save some. We have some around the property. I don't know if any of the original beams were used. It looks like most of it was new construction due to the complete collapse. So obviously this is where we get into a little bit of a existential question about what constitutes continuous existence. All right, next slide. And that just shows the application for a permit to build in Bolton. And you can see that they were rebuilding on the same foundation in the exact same spot and the same footprint as the old barn. Next slide. just some images of the rebuild in the same spot. Go ahead. And then if you see, I included this photo so you could see that the southwest side looks very similar to the way that it had looked. The color's the same. The footprint is the same. The second floor, I believe that roof seems like it's pitched a little bit higher than the original, but they look pretty similar. And then the next slide, you'll see sort of this side is actually the side that you could see if you were driving on 117. Okay, next slide. All right, so I believe that our plans satisfy all the conditions that they would need to under the bylaw. Obviously, the sticking point is potentially this existing continuously since 1925. And the way that I sort of analogized this in my head was, suppose this bylaw had been in existence before the collapse. Probably the homeowners could have sought to apply the bylaw to the barn at that point because it was all the old materials. But if the barn had collapsed after getting approval and then had to be rebuilt, you would think that the bylaw would still apply even though you had to use new materials to construct it, because the intent is obviously to keep it to the historical look and general appearance. So for subsection B, we're going to be on the same lot. Subsection C, it's going to be owner occupied. The plan would be that my parents would be there and we would be in the main house. Our principal dwelling is included in the historical and architectural inventory, which I think on the next slide you can see, that there was an inventory form done way before we ever lived here, but you can see in that second photo, number 280, that's a black and white photo of the barn that you saw earlier. Next slide. Yep, it would be used as a single family dwelling. Next slide. It shall substantially retain its appearance as a barn. So we want to keep the look very similar to what it is now. And we would be working with the Historical Commission to the extent any additional external features might be added. And when we get to the last slide, there's a couple of things that you'll see that we may need to do just to make it a more livable space. Practicable as a dwelling, I should say. Yep, there'll be sufficient off-street parking. We're going to meet all the building code requirements. We're probably going to be working with Doug Story if we get a green light to go ahead. And he's obviously familiar with all of the rules and regulations in Bolton. Next slide. All right, so in terms of potential new elements from what you see on the existing photos, we may want to add dormers on the second floor for some natural light because as it is, that second floor doesn't get much light at all. And then we may want to add an outdoor porch on the southwest side, which I'll sort of show you on another page. And then windows on the existing garage doors to let light in. So if you go to the next image, that gives you a sense of some of the things that we would consider and try to work with Historical Commission in terms of meeting their requirements. So that is the basic overview. And I guess on the very last page, you can see what the interior looks like right now. So that second photo on the right is of the second floor. And we have all of those fluorescent lights on right now, but without it, it really doesn't get very much sunlight. So that's it. I would be happy to answer any questions. Basically, the reason why we wanted to present at this point, like I don't have any plans and architectural design for you at this point because we didn't really want to be spending money on the project if you decided off the bat, you know what, we don't think it meets the requirements of the bylaw. Erica, am I missing anything?
No, you did awesome, Brian. You covered everything that we talked about in the bylaw. So.
Yeah, so just to, I guess, the main thing here is I think you did a great job of touching on all the points and how this would come forth. I think the one question you're looking for us is just that whole continuous since 1925. I mean, I definitely look at this as, you know, this bylaw wasn't in place back then. I mean, it was 20 years ago when this was done. So in one sense, I think they did a great job of trying to mimic the existing conditions of the barn. You know, they did the best that they could with salvaging as much of the materials. It sounds like that they could, understanding that it collapsed, that so there is some significant, you know, component of it that needed to be redone. So I think in that retrospect, you've kind of met the intent of replacing the barn that was built before 1925.
Yep.
So it seems to me that this would be an acceptable, you know, use under. I think you're meeting that continuous built between 1925 would kind of be my thoughts. What does the rest of the board feel?
Do we only allow accessory apartments through the barn bylaw? Are they disallowed otherwise, Erica?
Do we allow for accessory apartments if they're attached to the primary dwelling unit? This barn, the barn bylaw allows for detached, which we do not allow typically.
Okay.
Erica, we were talking about potentially adding this use anyway, right? Accessory apartments attached.
That is
Yeah,
correct.
that's at the last hearing. This is the bylaw that we're looking into to bring in front of town hall. I'm sorry, in front of town meeting next May, which would be separate from the barn bylaw. But yes, exactly, Eric. It would allow detached accessory, you know, apartment accessory uses. But right now, I actually feel like this one does meet the barn bylaw.
I'm biased in that
Anyone?
I think anything we can do to get more housing in town, we should do. So I'm certainly willing to agree that this does seem to meet all of the barn bylaw criteria.
Yeah, and I think where I was trying to go with, you know, when they replaced this 20 years ago, before this bylaw was even out there, they did it with the intent of trying to do it as much in kind as possible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, clearly, if this was done maybe a year ago, I think there could have been some questions there. But the fact that it was done 20 years ago, you know, and I think it was done to the best that they could to mimic what was there under existing conditions. So that's why I feel this is, you know, kind of met that before 1925 thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's meeting the, you know, the spirit of why we put that bylaw in there.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Did anyone else have any comments or questions?
No,
So Brian, the garage, it wouldn't be a garage at all, right? So no.
So what we will probably do is, I don't know if you can go back a photo, Erica. We'll probably keep the leftmost bay as a vehicle bay. And then the appearance would look like 3 garage doors, but only the leftmost would actually be a garage for a vehicle. The rest of the first floor, we'd put in a wall, we'd convert the first floor into living space, and then convert the second floor into sort of like the bedroom suite.
Okay.
And I think, and you already mentioned this, obviously any exterior stuff with the porch and anything you're doing would need to get approval from the Bolton Historic Commission, just because of the historic component to this.
Yep.
And I'm assuming that would be part of the special permit process.
I think that's right, Erica. Right, Erica?
Yeah, any new elements to the structure would need to be reviewed, not necessarily approved, but reviewed by the Historical Commission.
Yeah, and our intent would be to kind of run everything past them and make sure they were comfortable with it. I mean, we were actually really lucky that the prior owners of this home cared so much about historical preservation without even like a bylaw asking them to, because they kept it looking consistent, and that's what we want to do too. We might just add a few things to make it more livable, but we want it to look very similar to the way a barn would have looked back in the day. Well, thanks again for your time.
Okay. Erica, do we need to make a motion on this, or just, you know, Brian kind of goes away kind of knowing the feel of the planning board?
I think the board could handle it either way. If that's basically, I guess I think the board could
I
vote
mean,
if they feel comfortable voting, but I don't think a vote is necessary. I think most of the members have chimed in favor of using the barn bylaw to convert this into an accessory apartment. So I think Brian's gotten his answer. It just
well,
depends
the
on
only thing I'm thinking is, Brian, when would you anticipate actually submitting for special permits?
Yeah, so I'm going to be risk averse and say, so we want to start like ASAP.
Okay.
If the board is comfortable taking a vote saying that they feel like this meets the requirements, like God forbid you're all off the planning board in 5 months for some terrible reason and it's a brand new crew, you know what I mean? Like I'd
Well,
want to.
that's why I was asking, because
Yeah.
just for continuance, just to make sure, even if it was a year from now, there could be, you know, another member or, you know, two that were off or something like that. So I was thinking it may make sense just to have a vote. So you have something when you go to submit your special permit, you can say, you know, the planning board did review at least the intent of meeting this bylaw and kind of noted that to bring us back to this decision.
Yeah, that would be great.
Would anyone entertain a motion for this?
Sure, I can give it a shot here. So I will move that the planning board support the application of Brian Boyle to convert the existing barn to in-law apartment under the barn preservation bylaw.
Second.
Great. Erica, do you want to do a roll call for all those in favor?
All those in favor by roll call, Chairman Danielle Spicer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mike Gore,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
Peter Driscoll,
Aye.
and Mark Sprague.
Aye.
Great.
Right, that
That
is
was
unanimous
unanimous.
vote.
So
Great. Thank you all so much. I'll definitely keep you posted.
great. No, it's a
Okay,
great,
great.
looks like
Good
a
luck,
great
Brian.
project. Good luck.
All right. Thanks. Bye. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye. All right, so next, we're 7:19. I'm assuming that's close enough to 7:20. Should I wait a couple seconds? Although Andy's here.
I think we're good to go.
Okay. So we're here for Century Mill Estates to discuss the remaining punch list items required as part of the road acceptance process for phases 2 and 4, and then to request for bond reduction for work completed in phases 2 and 4. Funds released to be paid to Aggregate Industries and Gorka Construction as part of joint check agreement. So, Andy, if you want to go ahead, or Erica, I don't know if it's either which ones to discuss the remaining punch list. What's the best way to start with that?
Well, I guess let's start with the bond reduction.
Okay.
Well,
sure.
you know what? I actually don't think it matters. We can discuss either first.
I'm okay with either. Is it which one's going to be quicker? We can start with that one first. Is it the bond reduction to be quicker?
I think the bond reduction would be quicker.
Okay. So did we receive the bond reduction paperwork in?
So as of now, I haven't received either an updated bond estimate or the invoices from both Gorka and Aggregate Industries showing, you know, what needs to be, what the bond should be reduced by in terms of amounts to be paid to those subcontractors.
So Andy, it sounds like we need to push this to the next meeting until we receive that information. And Andy, you're on mute, just so you know. I think you're still on mute. We are unable to hear you. You're still on mute.
How's that?
Oh, there we go. We got you.
That's better.
Okay. I emailed you, Erica, the requests for payment for Gorka and aggregate.
When did you email them?
This afternoon.
They're not, I haven't received them yet. I don't see them in my inbox.
Didn't have them. And to the same place I always do. Oh,
I think even if it's just the invoices, it still needs, the whole bond reduction component needs to be reviewed as well, right?
well, we have a joint check agreement in place, which references.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So I mean, we already went through that relative to
That's-
paying.
You're right.
Work.
You're right.
The email I sent was at 4:22. I can resend it if you'd like. But Gorka's invoices total $39,524. I've already paid them $10,500. So they have a balance due of $29,024. And the amount in the joint check agreement that's approved from the town was $21,940. Their work is all done.
Andy, did you try to resend that or?
I can right now.
Danielle, the other thing is I haven't received the field inspection report from Niche Engineering confirming that the work was completed. We did have a site visit a week ago, and I had a verbal confirmation from their inspector saying the majority of the work had been done. I was hoping to have their inspection report though.
Okay.
To also review.
So I think it seems like in lieu of not having that and not having the actual invoice in material, it seems like it should be pushed 2 weeks. Is that acceptable?
Not for these
Andy?
people. I don't know why the report's not in. The work was probably, I mean, Gorka's, let's see, the work was probably done 21st, like 3 weeks ago.
I actually, one of the representatives from Gorka Construction called me today just to understand the process. And I had told them that it was on the planning board agenda for this evening, but that I hadn't received the invoices or the updated bond estimate. So they, at least the representative that I spoke to, didn't seem concerned with it being pushed out to the next meeting. She just wanted to understand, the timeline. So
Well,
I have not spoken to Aggregate, so I don't know what Aggregate's timeline is. I mean, we can reference the joint check agreement in the language in there that talks about sort of the process involved with releasing the bond. Let me pull that up.
I think we were past the bond estimate. This just says when the work's done, you're gonna.
Yeah, and I think, so I think as long as it was done in compliance with the plans, and that's where we just need to follow up with that report. So are you saying, Erica, tentatively we could make a motion to, approve the check, I guess, the release of the bond per the joint check agreement as it was stipulated in that, assuming I'm a little hesitant to do this without the site memo from Niche, but if it, if we felt comfortable that, the majority of the stuff, I know it seems like it has been done, and just kind of confirm with that, if we were to get the site memo that basically stated it was done in compliance, and we got all the invoices appropriated, we could potentially make a motion to allow Erica to release the check, before the next hearing, once that information was all, between now and then.
Erica, do we know why Niche hasn't turned in a report yet?
I think they've just been busy. I spoke to Stephen Ventresca earlier today asking about field reports, and he said he was going to try to get to the Century Mill reports as well. I see that I just received an email with inspection reports for Keys Farm. So I'm guessing we'll get the Century Mill Estates report soon. So what I have pulled up on the screen here, can you see it? This is the joint check agreement with, I believe this is the one with Aggregate. So this is the language in there about releasing of the paving funds. And it does talk about release of the paving funds shall be due upon approval by the town's inspection engineer.
Yeah, so I think, it seems, I guess I would be somewhat comfortable as long as we got the memo from Niche, and it basically, as long as it states that, the work has been done according to the plans, I don't think that it needs to be delayed to have the check, I guess, until our next meeting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Andy, the only thing I would just stipulate is if for some reason, if the memo indicated that there wasn't something, then we would want to discuss it at the next meeting. But I'm okay with just, if the board is okay with making a motion to allow the funds to be released, predicating the site memo from Niche to note that the work has been done in accordance to the plans and specs.
They told me it is. So, and
Okay.
and Erica and I met with them out there about a week ago, Erica.
Yeah, yep.
And Erica said that they said it was.
Yeah, so I think if we can just,
paving and the berm, they said are done, right, Erica?
okay, so let's just follow up with Niche to see if we can get that. Eric, if you just want to let them know, time is of the essence for that one, if they can try to submit that as soon as possible.
Yep.
And if that site memo basically stipulates that everything was done according to the plans, it seems appropriate that since, it's already stipulated in this agreement how the funds will be released. But I think we probably need a motion on this to allow Erica to release that.
It's just for
Unless
Gorka.
there's other questions. What's that?
It's not related to all work. Their work was related to raising the catch basins and so forth.
I thought you wanted it for both Aggregate and Gorka.
No, I do.
Or did I misunderstand that?
What I meant was
Okay.
differentiating between, not that we need a letter from, I don't think from Niche saying all the work is 100% done that's on the punch list. It's just.
Yes, it's not correct. You're right. So as someone's going to make the motion, just predicate it to the items that Gorka and Aggregate were in charge of. That is what we're looking for the site memo to note.
Yep.
Danielle, I just had one other comment. I remember now why I wanted the invoices too, and I think Andy, I had mentioned this to you on the phone. I wanted, because the numbers that were put into the joint check agreements, they were estimated amounts. So I wanted to be sure that because we're holding less bond than is required for these phases, if there was, for whatever reason, that estimate actually was invoiced at a lesser amount, I wanted to be sure that we could hold on to the additional bond money. So that's why I wanted to see the invoices.
I sent you, I just resent
Okay.
the Gorka one. I don't know if you have it. I don't know why you wouldn't.
You know what, Andy, for whatever reason, they're not coming through. So I'm going to send you an email and then maybe you could respond to that email just in case you don't have, for whatever reason, my correct email.
Comment, Andy could very easily share his screen if he has it.
Well, we need a copy of the invoices and such for our records, so.
Yeah, I don't know why they're not going through. I've sent them.
Yeah.
You send me an email, Eric, or I can.
I'm doing that right now. Yep.
Thank you.
Well, Erica, you were just asking what the total of the two invoices were. Is it possible Andy can just, I know he's got to send it to us, but in the meantime, we could just also.
Yeah.
It's
agree
just
with the two
unfortunate
totals.
that we're having to juggle this in the meeting.
Yeah.
I was
yeah.
hoping Andy was going to send this to me, a week ago. And it's unfortunate that it always comes down to the last minute.
Yeah,
when all of this
I'm
paperwork
not,
should have been submitted.
I am not comfortable making contingent
Okay.
motions on this. I think we need the paperwork. I mean, it'd be one thing if we had an email from Niche that, said everything's good to go. The final report will be here in a week. I would feel comfortable with that, but we don't seem to have anything right now. So I'm not in favor of doing any motions about releases tonight.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, we're meeting remotely. Otherwise, I could hand them to you. But I did email them already.
Did you receive my email, Andy?
And if you give me a minute, I'm going to attach them.
Okay.
All right, well, while we're waiting for those, how does the rest of the board feel? Because whether we get this information tonight, the question is does the board want to go ahead with a motion to, move forward with this contingent upon Niches, or do we want to wait until after we actually receive Niches memo?
I mean, I'm okay making contingent upon the satisfactory report from Niche for the work the two subs did. I mean, the alternative is once we have all the paperwork, we can, schedule an extra meeting to review it and approve it at that point.
That might be it, yep.
Yeah, I sent it back.
Does anyone else?
I don't know why Niche hasn't submitted their report. They've had weeks to do it. Doesn't seem like, I don't mean to be difficult, but it doesn't seem like it should be. I should get penalized because Gorka hasn't done their job. I mean, at least I understand you want it before you actually release the money. But the work was done a few weeks ago. There was not a meeting for 3 weeks since the work was done. And
when did you get the invoice from Gorka?
Gorka, I got their invoice a while ago, but Aggregate, I just got it on Monday.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't know why I'm not receiving Andy's email. My email is working. I've received emails as of recently 10 minutes ago. So
well, why don't we do this? If enough people on the board are not okay with, unless someone wants to put forth a motion, I would suggest, Mark, your second option there of let's get all the paperwork that we need. Let's get the invoices. Let's get Niche's memo. if we have that in a timely manner, and it's definitely before our next meeting, we can hold a special meeting just to review this information. I think it should be fairly quick to release that versus taking more time up in this hearing going over this, unless someone wants to put forth a motion to do the approval predicated on getting that information.
I'm okay with it either way. So it sounds like Mike wants the paperwork in hand. So yeah, I'm happy to go that direction as well.
All right, Eric, James, and Peter, how would you guys like to move forward?
That's fine with me. I'm happy to review it as soon as we have it, and if we need to have a special meeting, I'm okay with that.
Sorry, you have to go through that. I don't know why.
All right, why don't we do that, and then we'll have all the paperwork ahead of time. We can review that and not, kind of spending more time on this. And so Erica, once you get all that information, if you want to send out, talk to me of when we can do a quick special meeting, unless it ends up being like 2 days before the next hearing, then we'll obviously just do it on the 28th. But if it comes in fairly quickly, we can try to do that next week.
I agree. I'd like to have all information before we move forward.
All right. So Andy, if you're okay with that, we'll move in that direction.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So now let's go to the road acceptance and the punch list items for that.
Okay. The loam and seed behind the asphalt, that's going to be done by the end of next week. It may be done this week. In fact, Corker asked whether that would be okay if they could do it on a Saturday.
I think right now it would mostly be just, are they able to get it done during the week?
Everybody's busy, that's all. So they asked me, they mentioned coming on Saturday. And so I said I would ask. If you say no, they'll try to be there sometime next week.
I know the residents have been really flexible with trying to give you, ability to work on Saturdays where needed. So are you asking for, let me just look at the calendar, sorry. For Saturday work on the 17th, and that's really doing and seating?
It's what they have to do is place, maybe there's a 6-inch wide by 6-inch deep area behind the berm that needs to get refilled with loam and then seeded. That's very light work.
So typically we would want, enough notice to be able to, anytime there's Saturday construction asked, we try to discourage it, but also we try to give the residents enough notice. But I know specifically in this project, and I'll actually ask just if there's any concerns from the residents by allowing this, but I believe the majority of them are actually okay with allowing Saturday work. So given the history and just the fact that seems to be the preference to just try to getting this stuff done, I would be okay with entertaining that. But before we go there, is there any objection from the residents for that Saturday work for October 17th?
No objections for me. John Ballot's 21 Cider.
No objections. Vince LaRosa, 73 Old Stone. I would ask, it's not as simple in front of 68 Old Stone. There's quite a bit of loam. Erica, we actually looked at that area where he decided not to put a sidewalk continuously in there. So that's a pretty large project there. So I would ask if Andy would just send them a message and let them know that they'll be doing a little bit of extensive work in the front of their yard on a Saturday. I think that would be appropriate. Thank you.
What do you want? I couldn't hear you.
I think it was it 68 Old Stone Circle? Is that the correct address?
Yes, it's 68 Old Stone where there was going to be a sidewalk, and then apparently there's no sidewalk any longer.
Yeah, so there's additional loam and seed that needs to happen where there's no sidewalk.
Correct. And it needs to be
Okay.
built up. We had walked that area, and it's a little different than just the area between the berm and the base.
Sure.
It's
Yeah,
a
it's not
little
just 6 inches.
Yes.
All right, if, before we continue down this list, will the board entertain a motion to allow Saturday construction on October 17th just for this loaming and seeding behind the curbing?
So it is supposed to rain most of Saturday, it looks like. I don't know if that affects.
If it's raining, they
Okay.
won't do it.
Yeah, they won't do it. You're right.
You can't grade anything in the rain. I once tried it, and
We
well,
also don't want to seed if it's in the rain. I mean, like if
so-
it's heavy rain. All right, so that may be moot then.
I'm okay with approving it if
If the weather changes.
the weather changes.
All right, you want to make a motion?
A motion that we allow, what was it, the 17th?
October 17th.
A motion that we allow loam and seeding to be done at Century Mill on October 17th.
Second.
And then Erica, if you can do a roll call for all those in favor?
All those in favor by roll call: Danielle Spicer,
Aye.
Mike Gore,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
Peter Driscoll,
Aye.
and Mark Sprague.
Aye.
All right, so I think the majority of, Andy, you've got this CME punch list, right?
yes.
All right, so I don't know if we necessarily, do we need to go through these individually, or I think these
I
are
don't-
pretty.
yeah, let's not
straightforward.
go
Do you
through
have
them
any
individually.
concerns? Yeah, I was just gonna ask, Andy, do you have any concerns with any of the ones that we've that are listed down here? Or are you understanding of?
The only concerns I have relate to the is the open space.
Okay,
And I guess I would say also, I'd like clarification on taxes. Start with taxes. I own a house in the development, which is on the market. Now that the roads are paved and everything, I thought it was appropriate time for me. I don't have to be there every day anymore.
so I think with regard to the taxes, it probably makes sense. I think, Erica, you had suggested setting up a meeting with the town treasurer and the tax title attorney to discuss that portion of it.
That is correct.
I don't think, I don't think it makes sense to kind of go through that here during the planning board. So I think there's options that can be looked at. So if you're good with that, to set up that meeting.
Happy to meet with.
Okay.
Happy to meet with them, and maybe we could pick it up if there's something to talk about at the next meeting.
Yeah, I think if you guys, Erica, if you can set that up before the next meeting, so you guys can go through that. I don't think we need to go through that here, and then hopefully you guys can come to a resolution on the best way to deal with the taxes, and then summarize it. We can have a update at the next meeting, if that sounds okay. Unless anyone else from the board wanted to comment on that. Okay. Hearing none, I'm sorry, was there something?
Could a resident comment on that taxes, please? That's John Ballotz.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, I understand the premise of wanting to have a forcing function for back taxes. Some of this is personal taxes on his own home. Some of it might be taxes on lots and other things that are in the development. And at least from a personal taxes or even a taxes on a private company, as is the public water supply, I don't think either should withhold acceptance of a road, because they're really against a private company and a private citizen, not having to do with a developer. And the intent, as I read through the section 7,000, is really around making sure there's closure on taxes of a development being completed. And this is sort of an anomaly where we're getting special approval to do partial acceptance before it's fully developed, which we really appreciate. But you still have the leverage on the 14 lots that he owns and going forward. So I would ask, at least my position or my opinion would be that his private taxes, the public water supply taxes, or even taxes on lots that are still owned within the development shouldn't withhold or prevent any of the acceptance of the road, because the town should still have some leverage on that. And I would hope that would be considered if something's not worked out. I appreciate there's going to be a meeting and maybe it will be worked out perfectly with the sale of his home and anything like that. But I'd like the board to at least consider that not being a contributing factor to a vote up or down on road acceptance.
Erica, with your meeting, I mean, I don't think that's something we can necessarily state right here, but is that something you can bring up with your meeting with regard to options for how to address this?
Certainly we can talk about those issues. I know that in past conversations that I've had with the town treasurer, we've talked about how, you know, the house at 39 Mill Pond Road is not in the company's name, but in Andy's name. But her stance was that Andy is one of the principals of the company. So therefore, they consider that one of the properties. So we can talk further about that with her. And I would just also add that, you know, I think we've provided a lot of flexibility here on this subdivision to get to partial road acceptance. However, I also think that we should be holding Andy to similar standards to all the other developers that have gone through road acceptance, and that includes paying any back taxes. So to some degree, I think it's unfair to say to one developer, you need to pay your back taxes, and then to provide leniency here because we're talking about partial road acceptance when we're already providing leniency in partial road acceptance. So.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
I wonder if there was another developer in town who also lived in the town, that if they owed money on their house and it wasn't in the development, whether you would say, well, you haven't paid your taxes on your house. My house is my personal residence. It is not, and we all know that, you know, that there is, you know, legal entities and they're different. Old Stone Estates is the developer of the development. It's not Andrew Benditson. I may owe taxes on my house, but if I lived elsewhere in the town, would you be saying that? Gee, you have to pay your taxes on your house? No, it's got nothing to do with it. Well, I would hope not. But in any event, that was my comment.
I think that's a conversation we can have with the town treasurer, you know, in more in depth. And we can also ask her about whether we can look at just phases 2 and 4 and not phase 1. So I think there's definitely some questions that we can clarify with her, get some clarification on with her and the tax title attorney.
Okay.
All right, well, I think let's at least start with this meeting. Let's see what answers we can get from this meeting. It sounds like there are, like you just said, Erica, a couple options to explore, to look at, and hopefully we'll have some better direction coming out of that before the next meeting. Erica, I'm just seeing a black screen in front of me right now instead of the, yeah. Is everyone else seeing that?
Okay.
Me?
Do you see that now?
Yep, that looks better.
Sorry about that.
Okay, that's okay. All right, thanks. I think so that we're going to hold on the taxes till the next hearing after this meeting happens. I know you wanted just to touch base on the open space Did you go ahead, Andy, with your concern or question there?
Erica, can I make one comment before we move on?
Sure.
So I just want to clarify back to what John was saying. So, and I appreciate you taking a look at it. I would just like to, if we could get it on the record, can we look at these items as separate, number 14 and number 15? Because while number 15 paying taxes, that may be an individual situation. Number 14 seems to be some fundamental differences with the builder. And I think that's a completely different issue than paying taxes under number 15. So moving forward, I just want to make sure that we're looking at this as two separate items, and we can discuss that as two separate items moving forward.
Yeah, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that this is why they are separate items too. You know, the paying taxes item number 15 is going to be addressed after they have this offline meeting, and we will have a better direction as to how to address number 15. What I was going to ask now is just with regard to the concern for number 14. So they are, I guess maybe I'm not understanding, we say separate items because I see them as separate items here.
Okay, so we're not, we're still on number 14 now. We're not moving past that at this point.
No. So I'm sorry. I just finished up number 15. We're going to go back to number 14 right now.
My apologies. I thought we were looping them together. So thank you.
Nope. They are separate items. You are correct. So go ahead, Andy. You had a question or concern regarding number 14 with regard to the open space.
The conveyance of the open space has been a issue that has existed probably for 8 years, maybe longer. The town has been in possession of a deed signed by me for 100 acres of open space for probably 8 years. And the reason why I gave them the deed 8 years ago was because the Conservation Commission was pushing for the deed. And in fact, they would shut my project down because they didn't have the deed. Now, and every time they asked me for the deed, I said, well, who should I make the deed out to? And who is going to hold the conservation restriction? Because the conservation restriction on the land was recorded a long time ago also, prior to the deed being delivered to the town at a public hearing. So my approvals required 100 acres of open space be deeded. The 100 acres was a number that was extremely important to the planning board and the Conservation Commission during my approval process. As you probably know, what's required when you do a phosphate in the town is that I think it's 60% or 66% of the entire parcel becomes open space. So in my instance, my parcel was 200 acres. It was 60 acres of open space was required. I voluntarily offered 100 acres. Oh, almost double. So that offer was exciting to the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board. So in my approvals, over and over and over again, it states it cannot be less than 100 acres. So that was fine. In any event, project got approved, acquired the 100 acres. My approvals have the pump house being located in the open space by easement. That's what the approvals allow. That's what the approvals call for. That's what the conservation restriction on the land calls for. sometime after, not too long ago, I got a call from, and I've talked about this with numerous, I brought this up at numerous planning board meetings, numerous conservation commission meetings over the last 8 or 10 years. Sometime after all the approvals were done, which required 100 acres, I got a call from the former administrator of the Conservation Commission, Carol Gunbar. And she wanted to talk to me about the continuity of the town's trail system and how that trail system was going to navigate past the zone 1 of my water system. So she asked me to do something regarding the trail system. Anyway, what she did was she got rid of the easement area, which was called for under the approvals. You got, and for the pump house, and she got rid of the easement area that was built into the conservation restriction. Now, the conservation restriction, well, the approvals, you know who signed the approvals. That would be the planning board, the Concom.
I guess, Andy, I'm just trying to understand, what is the concern that you have right now?
The change that Carol Gunbar did, she created open space only consisting of approximately 90 acres, and she made the former easement area a separate lot. And then I got a tax bill. So by agreeing to accommodate some trail system, right, I'm now getting tax bills on land that was previously open space and non-taxable.
Okay, my understanding, if I could just pause you here for a minute, is it's not just open space, it's the zone 1. It's zoned zone 1, so it's different due to the public water supply system. Is that correct?
No. What are you stating?
The portion that's not part of the open space area right now is area that's zoned as a zone 1, which is a water supply protection district.
That's correct.
Okay.
So originally, everything was located in the open space by easement. Through some innocuous conversation where I was trying to be helpful for a trail system, the easement area got carved out and the open space got reduced from 100 acres to about 90 acres. And that was done without my understanding that the town was then going to tax me. No one in their right mind would give up land that's non-taxable to accommodate somebody else and then expect to get a bill for being a nice person. And it's not fair. So when we talk about this item 14, the conveyance of the open space, town has had a deed to the open space probably for 8 years or so, and it was for 100 acres. And the only reason the deed was never recorded is because the town couldn't figure out who was going to hold title to the land and who was going to hold the conservation restriction. So I'm very frustrated over this issue because although it's $3,000 or $4,000 or so in taxes annually, over the next 30 years, it's going to add up. And you know who's gonna pay for it? The residents. The residents are gonna, that bill will be put into their water bills, and they're gonna end up paying for it, and it's not fair, because that was not the agreement with the town.
Well, I can't,
All you have to do is look at my original approvals, look at the conservation restriction, and they have the water system located in the open space by easement. Open space is not taxable land. Why all of a sudden is the town, and I've brought this up at meeting after meeting after meeting, and, I feels like that, I'm getting steamrolled over, like, and, I don't understand it, Daniel.
okay, well, I don't recall this specific issue, I guess, recently, but, and I can't respond to, decisions that were made before my time on the board, which clearly those decisions were made before then. My understanding of it right now, though, is, Erica, correct me if I'm wrong, the town owns the restriction on the land and the Bolton Trust owns the land, the open space. Is that correct?
They don't own it yet. They're willing to accept the open space. So, and they've had their attorney review and finalize all of the documentation. So all of the deeds and the easement languages, all of that has been created. It just needs to be signed off on Andy, except for this zone 1 issue that we're in conflict about.
Okay. And so right now, my understanding is because the town owns the restriction on the land, they cannot own the zone 1 parcel.
That is correct. We can't own the open space. That's correct.
Yes.
No. Danielle, it's not like you said, it's not I guess there's a legal benefit to the title to the land being held in a different entity than the entity that administers the conservation restriction. So we're not talking about just the zone 1.
I thought that was the only portion that was in question, because you said all the rest of it has been set up in the language has been reviewed for the Bolton Land Trust to take that over. So I thought the only question was this zone 1 portion.
That's correct. That's the only question. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So it seems to me like there could be 2 options here. I mean, obviously, the easiest or simplest way to move forward with this, but may not be advantageous, is just to accept that you have a zone 1 parcel, you are paying taxes on it, and then that will then transfer to the homeowners association, and then they would pay taxes on the zone 1 parcel. The other option that could be explored is to see if the Bolton Land Trust would include that as part of the open space allocation to them. I believe in past they have turned that down, but again, I don't know how long ago that was discussed with them. So it's something that we can reach out to them and see if that's a feasible option. I don't have that answer tonight, so it's something we can look into.
Danielle,
yes.
I would just ask you to look at the approvals of this development and the conservation restriction that was placed on the land. The conservation restriction was on 100 acres. It has a plan attached, and it shows the water system in the open space by easement. That conservation restriction is signed by the Concom, Planning Board, Board of Selectmen, DEP Water, the legislature.
No, I just know that there were certain decisions that were made afterwards by the planning board that's, we can only go based on what the latest decision is by the planning board. So it seems like that those are the 2, unless someone else wants to comment here and potentially.
Does it seem fair to you that land that was
Well, I'm not gonna try to guess why they made that decision or anything like that. I'm not gonna try to go back in time and hypothesize that. I'm just trying to move forward with what's the best way we can move forward. So, does anyone else have any additional regarding this? I can first ask from the board.
No, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we need to go back and do a hunt through all of the paperwork to see what was actually approved, what the discussions were at the various boards, to see what people thought they were agreeing to or not, and whether people, did Concom understand what having the zone 1 there actually meant, for example.
Yes.
Andy, we need to verify that one way or the other. So, I mean, if that's the direction we want to go, I mean, ultimately, you've got the public water supply there for the benefit of the residents.
Yeah, no, there's no problem. I don't care if it's on a separate parcel.
From that perspective, why shouldn't that be taxed, the same as any other property that's there to benefit the property owners?
Because the town agreed it would be located in open space on land that is under a conservation restriction.
Okay.
Which would have made it non-taxable. Why?
I'm not sure that zone 1 and maintaining having the ability to maintain the well field is necessarily conducive to conservation, to living under a conservation restriction.
It absolutely is, as a matter of fact, because, well, we don't need to debate it.
We don't need to debate it.
My original approval
the details
show it that way. But a zone 1 is in fact a conservation area.
It is, but it also has very different restrictions on it than a general conservation area.
Well, because it's a public water supply area.
Yeah,
it's more restrictive.
It's more restrictive, and is that what did people understand that when they thought it was a good idea to control that?
Well, they signed it.
Well,
they signed. I mean, Mark, you're talking about something that's
Andy, as long as there's all the paperwork to back you up on this, then that's great. I mean, but ultimately we cannot force the Conservation Trust to take the zone 1 area if they don't want to hold that restriction.
Then get somebody else.
That's not our job to find somebody to hold that.
Well, but
is it?
It's not my job.
Well, you're the one who wants to put it. Who wants? I
mean, if you don't want,
it either needs to be conveyed to the town, under the terms the town has agreed to, or you'd need to look at conveying. I don't know whether the homeowners could take the conservation restriction on the zone 1 area. I don't know. I mean, but I mean.
Yeah, if I could I chime in here, Mark? John Belowitz.
Yeah.
Just because you said the homeowner. So as Andy said, this is really historical agreements, but we don't have really much to say in that. And I hope you guys look at the paperwork and figure out what the proper decision was and why it was done this way. Obviously, Andy doesn't agree. I don't think there's any reason for the homeowner to take any ownership of the property itself, but it's going to be, unless he decides to deed it over to us, it's going to be run by a private company that's going to be taxed on it. It's going to be regulated, and that tax is going to be rolled into the regulated price. So there's no reason for us to have to own it or do anything with it as residents. We're going to have to pay the tax bill through our water cost. So do I want it as a homeowner in this development? Do I want an extra $4,000, $5,000 cost to be put on top of our regulated water cost? Absolutely not. But I want the town to figure out what the agreement was and why, and if it's the right thing to do for you guys. I don't think for $10 a year on a water bill per home should be stopping this road from being accepted. But I do want the right process to be followed for the town and Andy to come to an agreement what's the right thing to do. And if it is to be taxed, then I think at least myself, and I see we probably have 20 or so people on this call from our development, we all should understand that $4,000 or $5,000 per year is going to be part of the regulated cost of water if it's not deemed to be tax-free. So That's my position. I just think I've been around Indy enough to hear this argument for the last 2-3 years, and I'm sure you guys have as well.
Yeah.
So, as long as there's a decision made that it doesn't hold up the road acceptance, I don't care what it is. I'd rather there be no taxes, but I think for, in essence, $10 per resident per year, I think we move on.
It's not, first of all, it's not, it's 100 probably per resident per year.
Okay. So
Well, let's thank you, John. I appreciate that. I think let's do what Mark, you had suggested. Let's, Erica, if we can just bring up the original decision between now and the next meeting. Just review that, see where that.
I've sent that to Erica.
So the original planning board decision, I would pull up the Fosbury special permit, because that's the open space special permit where open space needs to be conveyed to the town as part of that approval. And the original did say 100 acres in 2014 to remove the zone 1 parcel from the open space. So again, I agree with Danielle that we're looking at the most recent decisions of the boards when we're contemplating the conveyance of open space. So, that's what I would reference the board to, is the most recent decision.
Feel steamrolled. The original decision, like you said, was 100 acres and of open space, and the original conservation restriction was 100 acres of open space. Both showed the zone 1 by easement in the open space. Now, what you're saying is, well, we have to go by the most recent. My point, though, is that the most recent change was done in an underhanded way. It was done based on a phone conversation with Carol Gumbart, where she called me up about walking trails. She didn't say we want to make a change.
Let's find out why, what that 2014 decision was, and table this for now.
Yeah, I agree. Let's, and then we can also concurrently reach out to the Bolton Conservation Trust and see if there's any way that they would be interested in taking it over. I know in previous decisions, the answer was no, but let's get a more recent decision from them. That way, maybe they've, who knows, certain things have changed, and maybe they would in the 2014 decision, and whether Bolton Conservation Trust would entertain.
Yeah, so Danielle,
and have a better direction.
I will try to see if I can get a meeting set up with the Bolton Conservation Trust. And I just want to add that I have done that research, and I do have all of that paperwork. I have the meeting minutes from when the open space was discussed in 2013, 2014 with the planning board. I do not have Conservation Commission files, obviously, but I can send that to the board and to Andy to show what I have for record. So
yeah, and actually setting up a meeting sounds great with them.
Would it be possible for me to make a presentation at an upcoming planning board meeting so that I can show you these documents?
Well, let's, and you can obviously bring those documents to us. It sounds like we actually have a fair amount of stuff. We just need to review it. Again, it's 6 to 7 years old, so we just need to bring it up to speed with everyone here.
And Erica, if you can you reach out to the Concom and see if they have, see what their minutes and decisions reflect. Because we may have amended it based on an update from them.
I believe that is the case.
So we need to understand what their rationale, why they wanted it amended.
Quick question. This is Randy Jassoon from 75 Old Stone. Are there back taxes that are due on this land dating back to 2014?
I don't have that answer.
I don't know, Randy, when we started getting, we've never recognized taxability of this land, of this open space land.
Okay, just trying to gain an understanding of potentially what the residents could be held liable for.
Well, the taxes on the open space I don't know the answer to your question.
Well, let's
I'm
wait
hoping
till.
that
I think the only liability, Randy, we have is if it's considered as part of the regulatory process of setting a rate as a cost to the public water supply. The residents don't have any ownership of this land. It's the owner of the water supply, and the cost to run the water system and the water company, if it's deemed that it is taxable, that's just one more cost that will go into the regulated price. That's really the only thing I see.
And so that would be moving forward then, John, just for clarification.
I don't know. I don't know if they take the back cost, because obviously all the lawyer costs that he's taking to get regulated will be tied into the future looking. It's going to be an expense that'll be absorbed and probably tied into the future looking as well. I guess that the past taxes that's unpaid to date, if he's forced to pay it, it's going to be a cost that'll be rolled into the regulated price if and when it's completed.
All right, thanks, man.
All right, so I'd like to wrap up this portion. We're definitely way over the schedule. Other than obviously the to be continued items, we're going to have the meeting on the taxes, have the meeting with the open space. We're going to keep those two items, open to address. You have the rest of the list in front of you. Is there any additional concerns you have, Andy, addressing this, or are you pretty much okay with the list we have in front of us?
I can only see a portion of it.
And you should
Erica,
already
was this-
should have a
was this
copy of
sent?
this already, so.
I don't think there's anything else.
Okay.
Where do
Andy,
we
did
stand on
you-
the affordable? Where do we stand on an appraiser for the affordable units?
I've contacted the appraiser. I'm waiting for them to send me their proposal.
All right, is it possible that we can get that appraisal before our next meeting? Because that would be another great thing to check off. We've been
I
asking
doubt,
for months.
yeah, I doubt he'll be able to do it in 2 weeks.
All right, well, we just need that as soon as possible so we can check that off.
And Danielle, we also need the insurance policy. That's also very important. So
That I
Andy,
That I can probably get in by the next.
okay.
That would be great. And Erica, you sent this list to Andy. He's got this?
Yes, he has it in an email. Yep. And I can send it in this Word file to him as well.
That would be great. All right, with that, I'm gonna move on to the next one unless there's, Andy, are you all set?
I'm all set. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. All right,
I can
we're
click
gonna-
off.
you can just click leave if you need
Yeah.
to on the bottom right, and you're good.
Have a nice evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Okay, bye.
Erica, if you can, sorry, go back to the agenda.
Yep, I will do that. I apologize, I accidentally closed it out.
And thank you to all the residents too for calling in for Century Mill Estates.
Thank you, Daniel. Thanks, everybody.
All right, Bob Pace, Keys Farm subdivision, planning board to discuss cease and desist issued on October 1st, 2020, and subsequent corrective actions relating to drainage and erosion issues on lots 1, 2, and 4. And then planning board to discuss driveway runoff at lots 3 and 4. Good evening, Bob.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Let me just figure out how I can see you all. Hold on a second. Oh, there you are. Hi.
Hi.
I have Greg Roy with me this evening.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Greg.
We have met out on the site a few times. And let me shut this off, I'm sorry. And we've come up with a couple of ideas, okay, in order to mitigate this this erosion issue or water issue. But when we met out there, it was agreed upon that these actually involve lot 1, 2, and 4. Lot 3 okay, doesn't have that issue. That's another issue in itself.
Yeah, I think
But-
the cease and desist is just for lots 1, 2, and 4.
Okay, so what we did decide, okay, we met out there with Erica and a police officer, because apparently I'm a risk. But we decided that, you know, we could run a trench, okay, on the bottom of the slope, on the toe of the slope on lot 4, run that out into the woods, if you will, okay, and it had a natural course it would take. One of the things that we did decide, though, that before we did anything short of a conceptual, was that we would need the consent of 4, 2, and 1 collectively to do so. That said, we walked with Liz, who was in lot 4. Lot 2 and lot 1 could not attend. It was short notice. It wasn't that they didn't want to attend. It was short notice. Okay, Greg had another meeting, and we walked through this and came up with an idea. With this idea, I should say. Liz agreed with it, and I did not hear back from lot 2, and we did hear back from lot 1, who wanted more information or didn't like the fix, or I'm not quite sure, but was against it. So we actually met out there this morning as well. Okay, not a planned meeting. We just happened to be out there, and Erica was out there, and we spoke about it again. And what we've come up with is at least it's a concept, okay, and it's a rough concept. No sense in drawing a plan up, okay, if it's not going to be agreed upon. Jeff, I keep calling you Jeff, I'm sorry, Greg, sent Erica a copy of that, and perhaps you could put that up, Erica. And Greg, you can take over, okay, from there if you'd like.
Sure. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, okay.
Eric, are you
Sorry.
looking to put up a plan or?
Yep, I'm just pulling it off of my email right now.
Great.
I apologize. I think they must have just sent it recently.
Yeah, this
We
was
did.
all done pretty quickly.
I apologize. We're barely keeping our head above water. So, sorry, I said this just after 5 o'clock, Eric. I apologize to
No
you.
worries. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I'll try to zoom in a little bit.
This is Lori Coe from Lot 1. Can I make a comment, or should I put it in the chat?
Let's just wait. Let's let them discuss stuff first, and then we can hear the comments from the residents.
Perfect. Thank you.
And you're always welcome to add stuff to the chat, though, I should add. Sorry. So go ahead, Greg.
Thanks, everybody. I'll just keep this brief. And again, as Bob said, this is really an early concept plan based on our kind of to put the ideas that we talked about in the field in plan view, so you can see visually where we're proposing the different features. We also talked about in Erica expressed an interest to that a final plan be substantiated with drainage calculations, and I understand that. So I just wanted to put this in context. This is not a final solution, but it's supposed to. It's intending to communicate what we discussed in the field. So, so starting at the top of the hill, we walked that area, and we observed the we heard from the owner of Lot 4, and I apologize, I don't have all the names, so no disrespect intended. And heard, understood a little bit. I learned and understood a little bit more about what the situation is there relative to the water. We made some suggestions, which included putting some additional erosion control barriers at the top of the slope, which would, the intention of that would be to slow down the water and help establish vegetation on the breakout slope of the downhill slope on the septic system. There's some erosion, rivulets, and some scouring that's occurring as the water is flowing down across the top of the septic and then entering onto that steeper slope. I think that there's an opportunity to add some different type of erosion control matting in that area to beef that edge up a little bit. So we've sort of identified that on the plan that's in front of you, just downhill of that proposed erosion control barrier that we're showing. Right at the bottom of that slope, as the right at the property line between Lot 4 and Lot 2, we think there's an opportunity to put a swale in that area and direct the flow to a level spreader. I think what's happening is that the flow is channelizing and it's exacerbating the problem downstream. So the concept would be to capture that flow and to try to, a level spreader, the concept of a level spreader is to eliminate the point source and the channelization and spread that flow back out again. So where we'd have the up gradient tributary area channelizing, we'd be collecting that flow and then designing a device, for lack of a better word, a BMP called a level spreader, which would spread that out. And we think we can utilize the wooded area that exists on the backside of those lots and take advantage of that natural ground condition to maintain that and to knock down that eliminate the goal would be to eliminate that point source channelization that appears to be occurring. And we think there might be an opportunity to do that downhill as well. And again, I understand that we need to substantiate this with some further calculations and things. So the final answer on that won't be known until we get into that. But that's sort of our thoughts. I think I'll leave it at that.
Sure. I guess I have a couple of questions just off the top of my head. So where you say, so you've got some proposed straw wattles at the top of the slope, and that's where there's a leaching field, right? So
right.
Where there's a proposed leaching field right there to try to kind of slow that down. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then on the slope between straw wattles and then the level spreader, you're going to do some erosion control matting. And I see you've kind of called it for stake down. It's what we saw out there. We actually, a bunch of the residents had emailed several pictures and videos to us kind of showing the conditions of the past couple of days. So we appreciate you sending that information so we can see that. I think it's in this area where we did see there was an attempt to put down some matting with some straw, but it doesn't seem, at least from some of the pictures, that it was really taking. So is this matting using that same, or is this using a different erosion control matting?
Yeah, I think we may need to look to one of the more more permanent. Yeah, not the
yes.
I can never remember what we had. North American green still, but we maybe a step up from the SC75 product. That's the way I remember it, and go up to something a little bit more semi-permanent, I'd call it, that has some more
yes, I guess.
And so I think the goal there is we need to get the root system established on the slope. So I think the problem is the matting that's there isn't isn't allowing that to happen before the, so I think we need to study that a little bit. And I think there's products, there's levels of products that we can select that will help in that process. So that's what our intention is there.
Yes. Perfect. So actually that's great. So I'm glad you're looking at different options, just because I think there's a whole host of, things out there. There's definitely some that are a lot more durable. And so whatever you would, this is great. First of all, thank you for actually having a plan that we can look at. I know that was one of the conditions on the cease and desist. So this is, and I know it's conceptual, but it's at least helpful to understand the thought process. Once the plan is kind of finalized and you have a spec for whatever you want to use with erosion control matting, if we can just review that with Mitch, that would be great. Whatever you want to propose there. The only thing I was going to suggest though is once we get to the next level spreader, between the two level spreaders, you actually have a steeper slope there. So would it make sense also to use that matting between those two as well?
Take a look at that. They have stump grindings there. Is this Danielle talking?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry, you're not on my, they're sharing the screen, so I can't see who's talking. I apologize.
Oh, gotcha.
I thought I had the right person there. So,
yes.
Well, you've been on site, so you've seen that there's stump grindings there. So I guess we'll take a look at that and see.
Okay. I wasn't sure exactly where the stump grindings were. I did see that on site. So if that's between those two, then I think you probably are right. It may not be needed. I would just, I would look at where maybe, I know that those erosion control mattings that are more durable can definitely help with some of that slope stabilization. This last question I had before I ask, open it up to other planning board members and then the abutters or residents. With the level spreaders and the fact that you've got the swale there, and I know you talked about looking at the drainage calcs, is the intent then to just slow it down and still allow it to continue in the direction it was going, or to actually have it head, I don't know where north is, but towards 0 Danforth Lane?
Yeah. So I don't think we'd be capturing the 100-year storm event, Danielle, but I think we'd be trying to pick up we try to size that swale and level spreader to handle a significant, a significant storm event, say something like the 2-year event that's a 3-inch rain or something like that, so that we're picking up events that are all frequently occurring events. And in larger events, we'd certainly be taking a large percentage of it. And I think, in more extreme events, we'd need to, I think, maintain the ability for that to keep going. But even in those larger events, you'd be taking off the first, significant amount of the water. So that's our intention.
Sure, but is it going towards 0 Danforth Lane? Or
sorry, I didn't.
Towards Lot
So
1?
no, I think that that we walked it, and you can kind of see from the topography, I believe the flow is going to run just about parallel to the property line. It will not go. It does not appear to me, based on a site walk in the field or a review of the topography, which again we need to study a little bit more, but does not appear that it will be direct. That doing a level spreader in that area would cause an offsite runoff condition. And so certainly we need to make sure that's the case, and I have that squarely on my radar screen.
Okay, that was just my concern, because obviously you can see the house that's across from Lot 1, that we wouldn't want to increase any flow there. Okay, so as long as that's made sure and looked at, and then I see, we've got the two, the level spreaders. I think that should significantly help with the erosion along this area. I know that we've got some chats, but before I go to those in the chat box from the abutters, are there questions or comments from actually, before I even get to the board, Erica, if you want, just as a reminder for the board, to bring up the cease and desist, I think this is just a good time. There were 4 kind of items that we were looking at, just to remind the board. I think so. The corrective actions we were looking for was a site plan prepared by registered civil engineer. So this is, Greg, you've just, I know it's conceptual, but you've given at least us an idea of what you are proposing. So I appreciate that. Obviously needs to be reviewed and approved by us and Niche. And that the on-site corrective action items shall be, I mean, this had said originally completed by this meeting. We understand that's not the case, but we're reviewing the plan. We see some measures moving forward. So that is helpful. And then, you know, just that obviously you're going to attend the meeting today. So I just wanted to remind the planning board of these items as you're looking at this plan. So we can go to the plan, and I'd open up to the board first to just any questions or comments on it. Once we get, I might have a delayed reaction. Is the concept plan showing?
No, it is not. I have the cease and desist. Can you see the cease and desist?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask, can you, sorry, go back to the concept
Oh,
plan?
sure. Yep.
Sorry. All right. So does the board have any questions before I open it up to questions from the residents on what they're proposing here?
So if I understand correctly, Greg, the goal here is really, you know, with all of this is to help stabilize things until the vegetation gets established, and then in theory the roots should, you know, should hold everything in place.
Yes, sir. But I mean, the erosion control barrier and the matting would not be permanent, but the level spreaders would be. Not only will they help in getting the vegetation established, but they'll also help long-term in keeping that flow spread out. So, but yes, a primary objective is getting good vegetation and root growth, which is the number one thing to mitigate erosion, scour.
Yeah, but I think to Danielle's question about whether these would be sufficient for larger events, I think, you know, I think if the goal is really to help get things established, so that even a bigger event wouldn't be a problem. I think that'll help. Kind of along that same line is, should you have some straw kind of upslope from the leach field for lot 4 to help keep, you know, slow things down there to get that vegetation, you know, that grass established?
We can look at that, Mark.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be good just to, I guess, to know if above that leach field, if there's any concerns coming down to that leach field ahead of time, or if it's really kind of happening after that.
Yeah.
Erica, I don't know if it's worth showing the pictures I sent you, but it shows kind of where the runoff is originally coming from, which nobody's really discussed to this point. These drawings don't really show an accurate depiction of the slope of our yard. And there's
I need you, if anyone's talking, you need to just introduce yourself and say
sorry.
Where you're from.
This is Liz Hutchins from lot 4.
Okay.
This is our leach that we're discussing that's having the issues.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
So we have sort of a flat area in our backyard, and then we have woods that sort of separate that flat area, and flat is being relative to where the leach is. The runoff from our flat area of backyard is going through the woods. It's channeling through the woods and then channeling into the leach, which is where the problem is originating. We have manually put our own French drain in, basically, on the edge of the woods to channel the vast majority of the water off of our leach because we were having so much trouble with water sitting on the leach. So I personally think it would be helpful to have, even for the time being, some wattles or something there to help us establish grass in the middle of our leach. We've established a really solid lawn, except for where we have this massive water flow, obviously, because we can't grow grass there. But that would be helpful.
So Greg, if you can just, I think what she's mentioning is upgrading of the leach field. There's some issues. So if you can include that with some of, it seems to be channeling, from what I'm understanding, upgrading of that. So looking at that as part of this, because if we can, make sure it's not channelized beforehand, it should be more reasonable to keep it separated or non-channelized.
Okay, we'll look at it. Thank you.
Any additional comments from the board before I start? I just want to read, make sure I read what's in the chat, and then we can continue the discussion.
The level spreaders are permanent structures that go in? Okay.
Yes, yes, sir.
What maintenance are the homeowners going to have to do on those?
They would be, I mean, typically you'd want to make sure that you keep debris out of them. You don't want to use them as a place to, deposit your grass clippings and your leaves. You want to make sure they don't get choked out with vegetation and trees. Over time you'll apologize, my throat's giving up. Over time they'll trees will want to grow up in there, and weeds and things. You want to kind of keep that free, mow them periodically.
I was just gonna say they could just be mowed, right?
Yeah, you could weed whack them. We could certainly suggest some things on the plan that would be normal operation and maintenance items. I wouldn't call it. It's a good question, Mark. I wouldn't call them too significant, but there are some things that should be occur. I mean, routine mowing is really the biggest thing, and by routine I mean once or twice a year, just to keep things from really establishing and growing.
Kind of like wild grass area that you would want to just not let it overgrow, but yeah, mowing once or twice a year should be enough to keep it as it's being designed.
Hi Danielle, this is Brianna Kiernan from Lot 2. In looking at that plan that was just up on the screen, it appears that the swale in our backyard is in the middle of our backyard. Can you confirm that that's actually at the base of our mulch hill and not in the middle of our yard?
Erica, can you go back to that plan? And then Greg, I think maybe you can answer this question. I'm assuming that you place the level spreader purposely to be at the bottom of that mulch hill, but can you expand upon that?
Sure. No, I appreciate that question, and again, I'll just say I apologize for the conceptual nature of this plan. There is some survey that we want to confirm out there before we finalize the plan to make sure that we're, really. I think that I'm not sure we have that slope completely captured on this, the location of the toe of that steep slope captured on this plan. So our intention is to put that on that, not in the middle of your yard and on the uphill side of that, on the down, right as that slope ends. So I appreciate that question.
So the revised plan you will submit will actually maybe have a hatch of where or something kind of showing where that mulch area is, so that it can be kind of determined. Okay. All right. So that I think will be, and just as a caveat, just so everyone knows, so obviously Greg just submitted a conceptual plan for us for purposes for tonight to discuss, but there will be a revised plan that will need to be reviewed not only by us, but also by Niche, our reviewing engineer. And I'm assuming it would be great if the homeowners, especially lots 1, 2, and 4, can review it and let us know of their comments. But this is kind of the general concept of what they want to do. So give me 2 seconds. I will come to you in a minute. I just want to see if there's any other additional comments from the board before we go to the homeowners. No? Okay. All right. So I guess what we'd like to hear, and I know probably Greg and Bob would like to hear as well, is what they're proposing here. And obviously it makes sense. We want to get a little bit more information to make sure these level spreaders are shown appropriately, but the overall concept, are you comfortable with that? I mean, I think Bob really wants to make sure you guys feel comfortable with whatever's being proposed here. So knowing that there still will be a final plan that to review. Oh, sorry, if someone's trying to speak, and if you can just state your name and your address when you want to make a comment, that would be great.
Sorry about that. This is Lori Coe from Lot 1, and I love the idea of the swale and the rock. I think that's going to be great. I do want to make sure, like Brianna said, it's not in the middle of our yard, but they kind of confirmed that that's not. As long as that helps with some of the erosion of the water flow to my yard, I think that's a great solution. Because I sent a bunch of videos to Erica last night. The runoff is very, there's a lot of volume and a lot of velocity that it comes down the hill with to my yard. So I like the idea of it if it's gonna help with that as well.
Sure, thank you. That's exactly the point of what this is showing, is for it to slow it down and to bring it to you at a much slower rate, so it's not concentrating and not as quick.
Hi, so this is Liz Hutchins from Lot 4. So I have two questions. So the first question I have is that I was actually walking with Erica and Greg and Bob and everybody on Thursday when we kind of walked through. Bob mentioned, and Erica proposed, I think, Bob mentioned that he was amenable to it, and Greg as well, that they would potentially do a topo of our leach because it's in rough shape right now. There's obviously been a lot of degradation before it was able to be stabilized. It is fairly stabilized on the top now, but before we were able to grow grass, there's quite a bit of washout. And that's essentially why the channeling is happening now, because it's not flat on the top, so it's not sheeting down. It's sort of coming to the middle and sort of sheeting down the middle. Channeling down the middle. So I'm wondering if that's still in the plans, because that's not written up here, because I think that would obviously make a huge difference. To be honest, the wattles are going to do nothing right now with the amount of channeling we have. I literally am not kidding. It's a foot deep, especially with the rains we got last night. So I'm wondering kind of what the status is of that. That's my first question. So we'll answer that one first.
Greg or Bob, do you want to comment on that?
What exactly are you asking? If we're going to do a topo on there?
I think she was asking if you were going to do survey of her leaching field to see how the condition of it is what she's asking.
It's always been flat up to. I'm not saying I won't do it, but it's been flat up the top. Okay, and it continues to be flat. Okay, we'll take a couple shots because we have to do it anyway.
Okay. I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
Because I know when we were there and we were all standing there, it's very clear that it's channeling because the sides, like I'm not, the leach itself feels flat when you're standing on it. That's not the issue. But the problem is water is much more amenable to the topo of the land, right? So if you get a very, very minor change in that topo, you're going to get channeling. And that's really the problem we're having. I'm assuming the original drawing for this was intended to have the water sheeting off the top of our leach, which would obviously make a lot more sense. We don't have that sheeting anymore because we had a little bit of degradation at the top. So I'm wondering if we're going to look at that and address that and make sure that the leach is level enough that we're trying to obtain that sheeting effect versus that channeling effect down our leach.
Greg, I'll leave it to you, but okay, that's the purpose again of the, let's call it industrial matting. Okay, so that doesn't occur. And we did talk about seeing if there was something that we could do to break that one low spot. Okay, that's so. The answer is yes. Okay, we will take a couple shots and look at it.
Yeah, I just want to break the low spot. That's what I'm
I mean, realistically, I think to get this to work, that'll have to be addressed to get keep it sheeting up from the very top and not channeling at the top. So I think that kind of is part of the needs to be part of the entire plan anyway. So
Mark, okay, I mean, I could send you a copy of the plan itself. It's relatively flat up top. It's just got one little low point where it's channeling.
Yeah, water is nasty about finding that low spot and and going after it aggressively. So addressing that is
we're
part
aware
of
of
this. Simplify a lot of other things. So good. Okay.
And Liz, did
Okay.
you have a second question?
Yes, I did. Thank you. So we actually, and this is actually the next topic of conversation, we have a riprap swale on the side of our driveway, which we're obviously having issues with. It doesn't work right now because it's full of silt. So I'm wondering if we're going to put these riprap swales in at the base of these giant hills, which are currently not stabilized. And inherently, I think, regardless of if we put different erosion control measures in, we're still going to get some sort of debris right into these swales. I'm wondering what the plan is to make sure that we're maintaining integrity there and that they're not getting filled with silts, because we're having a massive issue with that right now.
So I think there's two issues. One, we're definitely going to talk about the driveway after this. The intent here is we're really trying to establish vegetation. So the driveway is different too, because you're going to have silt that's going to run off from a paved surface. You're absolutely always going to have that. With a vegetated surface, and Greg, you can add more to this, but the intent here really is as it comes down a steep slope, it hits this level area that it slows everything down. So this is going to be this is not meant to be, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, but this can, grow grass up through it. It can, have all that vegetation there, because really what it's trying to do is level it out, slow it down so it doesn't channelize, and then it will continue to go on. So it's really not meant as a pre-treatment device to capture sediment. It's meant as like a velocity dissipator to slow the flow down. Is that correct, Greg?
That is, but if I can just, I think what Liz might have been asking is we go in there and we build the swale soon prior to upgrading stabilization. Well, I think what Liz might be concerned about is that prior to that, we still might have some wash, and that then we'd have silt that we'd have to take care of in the swale. So is that what you're saying, Liz?
Yes, that's exactly correct.
Okay, so I think we can.
Very
That's a good point, and I think we can propose some things to mitigate that.
Yeah, I mean, it almost seems putting the erosion control matting on the slopes is a priority first before you build these level spreaders or something along those lines.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe just a wattle on the right immediately up gradient of the, so we'll look at that. I appreciate that comment, and we don't want to put something in and then have to go, I mean.
Well, that's my concern, is that we end up getting it filled with stuff and then it doesn't work, and it's, you know what I mean? So just.
Yeah, we don't want to do it again, so I appreciate
exactly.
that comment. Yep, thank you.
Okay, did any other residents have questions on this?
Zoom meeting, can I call you back?
I actually do. Sorry, this is Liz from Lot 4 again. I do have one question that I totally forgot to ask when we were in the walkthrough. I'm just sort of wondering. As we were standing at the top of our hill on Lot 4 looking down, Greg had mentioned that the I don't remember what the technical term is, but essentially the retention basin that's in the bottom of Lot 1 that's meant for the storm runoff, that was built with the intention of capturing all the water from essentially our lot all the way down into Lot 1. It is extremely clear as we walked down the number of hills and as we stood in Lot 1 in their backyard, that there's a wicked low spot there, which is collecting water. Was that the intention, to have the water collect in their yard instead of going into that basin? Because I was under the impression that all this water, like the way that the hills align, all that water should be eventually ending up in that basin. But by what Greg was saying when we were standing there, it sounds like maybe you intentionally want the water sitting around the propane tank in Lot 1's backyard. So I'm just kind of trying to understand what the concept was there with the original drawing, or if maybe the land wasn't graded appropriately to begin with, because it seems really counterintuitive that the basin's meant to capture this water, but the water's not actually getting to the basin. Let me know if that question makes sense.
It does. The basin was designed in assuming that all the runoff from that area gets to it. And, based on the existing topography of the upgradient areas, I mean, as you know, it's a significant hill. So water flows in the direction of the perpendicular to the contour. So in our analysis, we assumed that all the water goes to the basin, which for the purposes of the drainage calculations is the conservative way of analyzing that, right? So when we're looking at sizing a detention basin, we need to get a handle on the runoff that's going to ultimately enter the basin and use that for design purposes. So we sort of assumed that slope, that travels down through there, that all the water would get there. Terraced, the effect of building those lots terraces those lots. I'll use the word terrace, liberally. I'm just trying to paint a picture. It now goes from a slope like this to a slope that's more like a stair step. I know it's a lot more complicated than that, but and that has the effect of slowing down the water to the basin so that the ultimate design of the basin ends up being slightly conservative, which from the standpoint of the overall discharge point of the detention basin is a positive thing. So I sort of say that as a preference, as a preface. Relative to the low point in lot 1, I mean, I walked there. I see what you're saying. It really wasn't the intention or not to have that. We didn't. I guess what I'm saying is, my firm didn't design that, so it doesn't. From an overall runoff standpoint, it doesn't. Having places where you hold the water, upgrading actually helps the runoff situation, but that's not the way we designed it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm trying to give you as much commentary as I can.
Thank you, Greg, for answering. I do want to just preface, this is kind of really, we're focusing on the stability slope, kind of that's where the cease and desist really is on for right now.
Yep.
So I think with this, so Greg, you're going to revise this plan and send it to us. And I don't know if, and then we'll obviously review it as soon as you send it to us, we can review it with Niche. And do you think that's something, I guess, how soon do you think you would have a revised plan?
Well, I don't want to talk out of turn, but assuming I'm authorized to do so here, I know that we need to get authorization for the property owners and things, so I don't want to talk out of turn, Bob, if you want to step in, but I mean, we can certainly get this thing turned around. When's your next meeting?
28th. So I guess, and we just need to give time for Niche to review it. So that's where I guess I was looking to.
Yeah.
So could I, okay. Could I ask a question? Okay, time is really of the essence here. Okay, if we're going to put this in and try to get grass, the 28th may be too late. So I guess my question is that, I've always had the difference of opinion that this isn't a planning board matter anyway. If the homeowners agree, I don't know why we can't put together a plan. Okay, maybe shave a week off of that, let Niche see it. And if Niche is okay with it, I'm sure the board would be okay with it. That way we could get this done by the 28th.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine if you can get a plan done fairly quickly and get it to the homeowners and get it to us just so we can forward it to Niche.
Yeah.
And Niche can sign off on that. I mean, that's all great. We certainly, I don't think want to hold you up on this. I think the main concern we want to have is we want to have Niche review it just on our behalf. And obviously the homeowners, I think, want to review it on their behalf.
So I think lot 1, 2, and 4 are there. I know Liz has already okayed this. I just want to know if lot 1 and 2 are okay with this. Okay, before we go.
Yes,
Yeah,
and that's where I was
yeah,
trying to ask. Granted, this is not the final plan, but it's a conceptual intent of what's going to be happening. So, does anyone from lot 1, 2, or 4 have any concerns with what's being proposed here?
So this is Brianna Kiernan again from Lot 2. I just have another quick question about the swale at the bottom of the base of our mulch hill. So is the goal for the water that goes into that swale to eventually end up towards the woods?
No.
It's an upward, no. Okay, so it would be an upward slope to get to the woods from there.
Right, that's why I need to do some additional survey. So I realized walking out there that there may be some, so, yeah, we're gonna have to fine tune that, the final answer there, but yeah.
Okay,
sorry
yeah,
to-
the only
sorry
thing
to-
I was potentially concerned about is if the water's redirected to the side of our house, that's already a trouble area with pooling of water.
Yeah. That would not be not be the objective, so I appreciate
Yeah.
that though.
I'm sure Greg's not gonna she flow anything towards the house.
Yeah, that's why I really need to do the survey. I need to really understand. I don't have really good, I have like the well located in the back of your house, but I do not have the backyard really well. It's just, it wasn't where the septic system was installed, so we didn't do a lot of as-built survey there. So I need to really understand that to make sure that we're not shooting ourselves in the foot. So, but I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And again, you guys are going to see a final plan. So this is really just the overall concept of it. So you still will have a say with regard to the final plan.
This is Lori Coe from Lot 1. And again, my other question would be like what Liz had mentioned prior is, I'm hopeful that this will work, but we have serious flooding in our yard any given rainstorm. And so if this doesn't mitigate that, then where do we go from? Will they add a swale between lots 1 and 2? Like, because we've already dug our own trench to divert the water, some of the water, away from our yard and driveway. So, I mean, I know it's early to say, but would that be an option to add another one if this doesn't fix the problem?
Well, I think, what Greg's really trying to do, I mean, one, he's going to do a survey, of the, portions of this area to get a better understanding of what's happening out there with more of an as-built condition. So, they're designing this, they're looking at it. So the intent here is that this is going to be a permanent solution that will work. Obviously, we just need to wait until it's installed and then see how it is. If there's failures, I think we'll just address it at that time. The intent here is, whatever's being proposed, and again, we'll review it with our with niche engineering as well. But the intent is that whatever's being proposed will solve this.
Okay, thank you. And my other question would be, when he does come out to do a site visit, can you let us know so I can hear what he has to say?
I don't think we were doing a site visit. He's actually having his crew, his survey crew, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, you were having your survey crew go out there.
Yeah.
Just survey the area.
If I go on site though, I'll certainly notify you. I don't expect to, but if I'm on site, my surveyors, they're not going to have any idea what I'm even doing. They're just going to, they have a specific task. They're just going to be, sort of taking the data for the engineering team to analyze. So, but we could certainly notify you if maybe I do that through Bob. We can certainly give you notice when we're going to be out there. I'm going to try to get out there. I'll see if I can get out there by the end of this week. It's crazy busy at the moment, but we're going to do it. I understand this is a hot button, so.
Well, I hated to miss the meeting, but I'm a nurse at a school and I couldn't get out. So, but I would have really liked to show you the issues that we have specifically. But I'm hopeful that what you're doing between lots 2 and 3 will help lot 1. So.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Danielle.
So yes.
Oh, sorry. Just a quick comment. Would it be beneficial then for when Greg does sit down and really look at this, if it makes sense to add a third swale, potentially in a similar location to where the homeowners of Lot 1 have installed one? Maybe that's something that they could consider or look at.
Yeah, I would just ask Greg to, obviously he's seeing the slope between lots 4, 2, and 1, and to look at that in its entirety and come up with the best solution to address that.
That would
We'll look
be
at it.
great.
This is
We'll look at it. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, just before you close this part of this down, I know we're gonna go on to the driveway thing. One of the things that I discussed this with Greg and with Erica today. We're not allowed to continue with the road because of the cease and desist. I think Greg would agree that that's not serving any usefulness at all, okay? We only have a limited amount of time or else you're not gonna get the road done this winter again, and the drainage is not gonna be working. I guess my thought is, are we cutting up our nose to spite our face? Okay, we're working at this. Okay, I think you can see we've got ideas. I respectfully would ask that we're able to continue, okay, with this.
Yeah, if I could
raise the catch basin and do the.
Yeah, if I could just give a little comment. So I'll just say it because maybe Bob doesn't want to throw me under the bus, but Bob shouldn't get penalized for my being busy. I mean, I would have loved to have hopped on this thing last week if I could have, and it's difficult right now with timing, and we're talking about, I want to expedite this as fast as possible, but we're still talking about another week, and there are tasks that Bob has relative to the road that he could be working on in the interim while I'm working on the plan. So what our intention was to show you that we've met on site. We came tonight, we're laid out a bona fide plan here and identified what we're proposing. And so we're hopeful that you'll allow the applicant some latitude with respect to moving forward on some of the things that he's looking to get done on the road.
No, I appreciate that. I will say, I was talking with Erica earlier today, and at that point, it seemed like there had been no movement on the 4 items, and that's why I brought up the cease and desist, just so the planning board was aware of it. The fact that you've come with this plan, you've shown a concept of what you guys are going to do, definitely gets at that first item that we wanted. It needs to be finalized, and you're moving forward with that. And I would say, as long as Bob is kind of, given that commitment that we're going to move, Greg is going to be able to move forward with finalizing this plan, and to do that, I'm more open, if the board is open to this, to lifting the cease and desist to allow construction to continue, knowing that you guys are actively moving forward with a resolution.
I think I heard lot 1 and 2, okay, affirm that they're okay with this. So that's the only thing I want to hear. Okay, and then he can go at it.
So how do the board members feel with regard, right now, the cease and desist has not been lifted. We had 4 conditions on that. Eric, I don't know if you want to just quickly go back to the cease and desist for a second. I think they're showing active process with regard to number 1, which is preparing a site plan prepared by a registered civil engineer. The site plan shall be reviewed and approved by the planning board and niche. That's going to be done hopefully next week. So I think, again, that's in the process. The on-site corrective action items shall, so I guess, the number 3 is a little bit of the question mark. Once the plan is done, when do you, and maybe you might not be able to even answer this tonight, but maybe you could answer it at our next hearing, but when do you anticipate being able to install these corrective action items?
As soon as possible. What I don't want to do, Danielle, is open this up and not be able to get some grass there. Okay, I want to get going on this now so it's completed.
Okay, and that, and then number 4 is just a date. So
Yeah.
I think you've, from my perspective, have shown some definite work towards meeting these corrective action items. and I know time is of the essence, especially for stabilization. We're we're mid-October now. Is the board open to lifting the cease and desist to allow work not only to go forward with this, but also with their regular work on the road?
Just to keep Greg honest here, can we lift it until the 28th? And then make sure that we're making progress on it?
I'm sorry, Mark, what was that? I missed the beginning.
Just to keep Greg honest here, can we lift this until the 28th? Just to keep a little bit of pressure on to make sure that it's being aggressively addressed.
You can always reissue it. You could do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're getting close with the timing on a bunch of different things, not only this stuff, but also the road. I certainly don't want to penalize the residents and putting Bob in a tough spot, but we obviously, issued this for a reason. And I think we're going to be, holding your feet to the fire, so to say, to make sure that these corrective action items are going to be done.
Yeah, I'm okay with lifting the order for now. I think they've shown, good responsiveness at this meeting.
Danielle, would it be prudent, and I don't know if this is helpful for Bob, but would it be prudent to lift the cease and desist contingent on receiving the approved plan from Greg? So when I receive it, we can lift it?
What's the difference, really? Okay, I mean, okay, tonight, next Tuesday, the difference is that I can line this all up now. Okay, and I don't like having a cease and desist on the project.
It's a bit of a definitely a leap of faith here. If we lift it, we're kind of moving forward, assuming that the plan not only is going to be done, but it's going to be approved by Niche, and then the corrective action items will be installed as soon as possible. I mean, it's really up to the board here of, it's October 14th and it's getting late in the season. I know he's got still a fair amount of, he hasn't done the top coat on the road.
Right, I have to have Niche come out there. Okay. I mean, there's a process. I got to raise the rims. Okay, we got to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, and you guys have a rule. Okay, it's November 15th. I don't know if I don't get going now, it's not going to happen.
I mean, I just want to be clear. This is Liz from Lot 4. We had jute matting sitting on our driveway for over 3 weeks because Rhino couldn't get their act together to get out on our lot and actually put it down. We had a meeting at the end of August to discuss doing it, and it took 2 weeks to get the matting, and then the matting sat on our driveway for 3 weeks. So while I completely understand, and believe me, I want my road paved more than anyone else because that stupid speed bump on the end of it is atrocious, but at the same time, I want to make sure that this work is actually getting done in a timely manner. So I want to make sure that everything is actually getting done and that people are actually being held accountable to do the work that they're promising.
Let me just rebut. I always look at things. What is the downside? Just give me the downside of this. Okay. I do the road and I don't do the other work. That doesn't make any sense.
This is Brianna from Lot 2. I don't really think that's fair to sort of put that on us. It's been very clearly outlined what's needed to be done up until this point. And a lot of it has not been done. There were supposed to be wattles put at the top and the bottom of our mulch hill, and that has yet to be done. And as Liz mentioned, the matting took many weeks for us to see that out there. So we absolutely want to move forward with this process, but we also need to see the finalized plan before we as homeowners can sign off on it.
Nobody's asking you not to. Okay, what we're talking about something completely different, Brianna.
we're talking about allowing Bob to lift the cease and desist to allow him to continue work on the roadway. So that's kind of separate from this item. We're still moving forward with the same plan of, we're going to get a revised plan. We're going to review it. We're going to have our engineer review it, and then it will be installed. But what Bob, right now, because there's a cease and desist, he's not allowed to do site work. So that's it's getting into his schedule for what he wants to get done in the fall.
This is Jason Hutchins from Law 4. I would agree with what Mark said. Give Bob the 2 weeks. Time is of the essence here. I do know that he has quite a bit of work to line up and get completed. And he's not just going to bring a paving crew in tomorrow and start paving the road. I think November 15th is going to come much quicker than people want. And what we don't want to happen as homeowners is to see the road have to go through another whole year without it being paved and without it being accepted. So I on speaking for myself and kind of on some of the other homeowners, I would like to make sure that the road gets done this year. And, I think we can run some of these things in parallel. And with the stop gate of the 28th, if progress isn't made, then the onus is on Bob for not getting that progress done. But if Bob's saying he's going to get one thing done and the road done at the same time, then I think it's a win for everyone, because the road will get done timely, the erosion measures will get done timely, and we still have a stop gate where we can check progress within 2 weeks.
You can always put that on the 28th, the 27th, the 25th. It doesn't matter. You can put it on whenever you want. Okay, so that I guess you want to say it's the 28th. Great. Okay, it really doesn't matter. Okay, the only problem is that if I raise all the rims and stuff, then we have a problem for the winter if it doesn't get paved. So I can live with that, Mark and Danielle.
I mean, as long as you're moving along, getting the plan done and getting all, getting it through niche and all that sort of stuff, come the 28th, you will say, okay, you're continuing to make great progress, and we'll either lift it at that point or push it out another, to our following meeting, and just, but if there's a hiccup, if something happens that we don't have a good plan to review, then we need to and that's my thoughts on it. And the rest of the board, clearly, should weigh in.
I guess, Mark, what I would ask is you lift it, you put it back on the agenda for the 28th, because we're going to come back on here anyway. Okay, and if it's not done to your satisfaction, you reinstate it.
That's another option.
Danielle, can I ask Bob a question?
Yeah.
Is there a paving date?
I'm sorry, what was that?
This is Liz. Is there a tentative paving date? We've been told on 4 occasions now that the road is going to be paved.
No, the answer is no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we've literally stopped. We'd have to start and get in the queue again.
Bob, what is your expectation in terms of completing the road? What do you anticipate you could get done in the next 2 weeks? Do you think you could get it?
Meet with Niche, meet with Niche, raise the rims, and perhaps, I don't know. I guess maybe that's all. Okay, maybe we'd be lucky enough to get a day where we could do it. It's weather dependent. There's not a lot of days left. There's only 20 more days to work on that road. Okay, and there's nothing lined up now.
I guess my only concern with the idea, if no progress has been made on the slope issue by the 28th, and now they've gone and they've raised the structures, the board's going to be put into a hard position at that point, because now you really have to pave. You can't really do a cease and desist at that point. You have to.
It's look, Greg's the one that's committing to get this done. I'm commissioning him in front of everyone. Okay, it's going to be before the 28th. So So, you know, I mean, that's where we are. Okay, I mean, I don't know what other assurances you need. Okay, you know Dusham and Dillis, you know Greg, you know myself. Okay, and again, I don't believe there's any downside. I feel like I'm arguing, okay, for no reason. Okay, we're here today. We bring it conceptual. We're going to get this done. Okay, I'm asking you not to wait till the 28th because I want to get working on this as soon as this is it is designed. Okay, I'm the one stepping on the gas here.
So is it helpful if we already said that, you know, it seems like the board is amenable to once the finalized plan from Greg is issued and Niche reviews it and signs off on it, and as long as the homeowners are good too, work can basically the cease and desist could be lifted then, because I think we said before we started getting the paving issue here was we're okay with you, we're okay with lifting the cease and desist, so these corrective action items could be installed as soon as possible. So I guess that's the other way to go through this, is to have the cease and desist be lifted contingent upon, and this is up to the board if they're okay with this, because basically it would be reviewed by Niche, the homeowners and Erica, but we wouldn't have a hearing beforehand to review it. Obviously we can, you know, get it ahead of time, but is the board comfortable with that?
Well, I guess I asked if Niche was going to be the one that would review it along with the homeowners. Okay, you could still have a hearing, but you know, we'd like to get going on that prior to that. Okay, if he got that done next Wednesday and Niche looked at it next Friday, I mean, we're almost talking the 28th, but we may have an opportunity to go in there and start the top trench. Okay, you know, we're not going to do them all at once.
Yeah, I think the only way I would, I mean, I'm open to that. If the board is, I mean, I'd want to put maybe one contingency there, just to allow when we continue this to the 28th, to review. I mean, I'm okay with the cease and desist being lifted if Niche signs off on it, but I would still want the caveat just for the planning board to give a final review of it. And if there needed to be anything added, just to keep that as a potential option to be open. I mean, likely Niche is going to review this. We're going to feel comfortable with their review, and there shouldn't be, but I wouldn't want to, I guess it just, you know, to allow the planning board to have a little bit of say at the hearing is an option. I don't know, what is the board?
Well, then what you're saying, well, okay, what you're saying is I can't start construction until the 28th.
No,
Okay.
no, I'm not saying that at all.
On the swales.
I'm saying you absolutely can start
okay.
if the plan is finalized and submitted and Niche signs off on it and the homeowner sign off on it.
Yeah.
The cease and desist can be lifted and you can go crazy with the work that needs to be done. What I'm just saying is at the 28th, we're gonna, the planning board's gonna have a chance to review that final plan. And if there was just a tweak or something that, you know, we had a concern or question about, it might be able to be, you know, adjusted slightly for that. I don't think it would be anything major because again, I think we all have the concept and ideas that you're proposing anyways. And it could be absolutely nothing, but I was just trying to keep it open to allow the planning board to review that.
Okay, again, I said leave it on the agenda, but lift the cease and desist and let me work in the roadway. You can always put it back on. Okay, if it's the 27th and you haven't seen anything and you have any doubt, you can stop me right there. I don't even know if I can get this done. So I okay, I mean, I'm going to be right up front with you. Okay, today's what, the 13th, 14th?
14th, yep.
Yeah, okay. So there's 30 days. Okay, and you don't work Saturdays or Sundays. It's like 21 days, 22 days maybe. So.
Well, I mean, that's the other. So I think there's a couple options out here. We can lift the cease and desist now and just get the plan to review and approve at the next hearing.
That's what I'm asking.
Yep.
That's what I'm requesting.
Is the board amenable to that?
I am.
Anyone else?
Yeah, no, I'm okay with it. I mean, Erica, is it harder to issue a new cease and desist or to just defer it for a couple of weeks?
Can you
No,
defer
we can, I don't know if I can defer it. I can easily issue another one. I can send Bob a letter tomorrow based on, how the board weighs in tonight. If you decide to lift it, I'll send him a letter tomorrow stating that it was lifted, for this meeting, which will give.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. Yeah, I think you've got to lift it. I don't think you can defer it, but I mean, we certainly don't want to prohibit if there's a chance for you, Bob, to finish the paving, obviously this fall. I think that's what everyone wants. So if that's, if the board is okay with that and someone wants to make a motion to lift the cease and desist, continue there's going to be a couple contingencies, continue the corrective action items for the cease and desist to the 28th hearing. Maybe that's.
Well, let's just make a motion to lift the cease and desist order.
Okay.
Right. I think that's what we need to do now. We're making a verbal agreement with Bob that progress will be made on this, that we will get a plan from Ducharme and Dillis that Niche will review, and that's going to take them some time too, right?
Yep.
So I would like to say that when there are property owners that are digging, and this could be a contentious statement, that when property owners are digging their own trenches to divert the water and trying to rectify the problem, it's creating a bigger problem on downstream, so to speak. I agree with lifting the cease and desist. However, I would also like to make sure that it doesn't impede what the residents do.
We lose James.
Looks like it.
I think James got, I kind of get where James was going. I think he was just saying they need to look at this as whole. Greg's going to look at this and kind of figure out what needs to get done. But for now, if I think he was trying to imply to try to hold off on some of the changes that the homeowners might want to do so that it doesn't exacerbate any additional issues, I think is what he was going at. But with that, is there someone want to entertain a motion for to lift the cease and desist?
I will make a motion to lift the cease and desist order for Keys Farms.
Second.
And Erica, can you do a roll call for all in favor?
All in favor by roll call. Chair Danielle Spicer.
Aye.
Vice Chair Mike Gore.
Aye.
Mark Sprague.
Aye.
Eric Nyland.
Aye.
And Peter Driscoll.
Aye.
Okay, pass unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right,
Hey,
so.
start hustling now.
All right, so I think we've kind of exhausted that. I think Greg and Bob have directions that they need to do to move forward. So let's jump on to the second item, which is the driveway runoff for lots. I think it's 1 and 3. Is that right?
No, 4 and 3.
Oh, sorry, 4 and 3. Sorry. So this is something I was talking to Erica, and actually we had talked briefly about it at our last hearing. Our bylaws have a sentence regarding driveways and how they should be dealt with. And after reviewing it, actually, let me take a step back and let's just tell you. So when a developer has a subdivision in front of them and they need to design their stormwater basins for the site, they have to include all of the developed area that's kind of going into the roadway. So that includes houses, driveways, and the roadway. So even though these basins, the road itself will become ownership of the town after road acceptance, the basins are sized for a lot more than that actually goes into them. So they've already sized these systems for the driveways that go into them. In our bylaw, there is, I think it's, yeah, right here, number 4, right? No. Yes. Is it 3 or 4? Yeah.
Number 3.
Oh, sorry, number 3. No person shall construct or maintain any driveway, conduit, or drain so as to discharge water or filth upon the street, pavement, or into open waterways or ponds. It's my understanding, previous DPW directors have looked at this portion of our bylaw and, interpreted that to mean that any new driveway needs to have its own stormwater system before you can have any runoff go into the main roadway. I think that's correct if it's not part of a subdivision. So if it's just a standalone house that needs a new driveway, they obviously cannot just have that runoff go into a public roadway, and they would need to treat and collect that water beforehand. However, with a new subdivision, since they are already designing their systems to include the driveway, I don't think that this is appropriate to apply there. So I think it's a little bit of a just interpretation before we get to actually, and this is where I think lots 4 and 3 of this subdivision, it makes sense to allow runoff just to go into the roadway. The stormwater systems have all been sized to take it. I will tell you, it's a unique interpretation of this. Most towns, I mean, I do a lot of work in other towns, and if it's sized to take the driveway, you don't have a separate system on top of that. It's kind of almost designing 2 stormwater systems. Certainly, though, if it was a new house with a new driveway that wasn't part of a subdivision, you would want to capture and collect that and not allow that to go onto a public right of way. But whereas this is different because it's part of a subdivision, it's already been included in the calculations. I think the runoff should be allowed to kind of go into the road. So I'll leave that. That's kind of where my interpretation stands, and leave it open to the board to have their comments.
So
Yeah,
Danielle,
I add something.
Oh, sure.
I know we talked about lot 4 and 5. I think you should include, lot 3 and 4. I think you should include lot 5 in that as well.
I honestly think it's for the entire subdivision. I don't mean to.
Yeah, it's only those 3 though that would be affected.
Okay,
I
but
just
basically
wanted to narrow it to that.
If your stormwater systems have been designed to collect runoff from all of the driveways, then all of the driveways should be allowed to, if that's how the grading works, should be allowed to sheet flow into the roadway, is my point.
Okay, I just wanted to mention it.
Okay.
So that was kind of my question. Like, I'm not so much worried about the capacity of it, but what's like on that particular lot, I don't exactly remember, what's to stop it from sheeting across the street if it's sounds
because
like
the road's crowned.
Yeah, so once it gets into the public right of way, typically you have curbing on the side, so it's not going to allow it to go across. 2, if the road is crowned, which we require as part of our subdivision, it's going to come out of the street and then it's going to go along the gutter line, and then it would go into the catch basins. And those catch basins again are sized for the amount of runoff that's going into it, including the driveway and other areas that go into them, because they usually are sized for a certain spread and stuff like that.
So I understand that, but it sounds like, especially on that one house, the water was coming off like in large volumes very fast. And can we guarantee that if that gets diverted into the road, it's not going to? And I know in several subdivisions, we waived the crowning in favor of, what was the other one? We've definitely waived that in some subdivisions. I don't, something like that.
You can allow a super elevation.
I know that
You can allow a
we
super
waived that in
elevation.
a number of subdivisions. So depending on which side the driveway's on, that's going to impact how it sheets across the road, isn't it?
Yeah, Michael, okay, this is crowned and the curbing is already in, so that die is already cast. So it's
Yeah.
going to remain crowned.
Right.
So it's going to hit, it's going to, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Just an FYI, on all three of these driveways, we've already put a level spreader to catch most of it, to break it, but there's always something, and it's running down the right of way, where the grass is, and that's where all the erosion, whatever goes.
So I think. So I mean, I think to Mike's point, I mean, trying to craft the wording here to say, if it's crowned, then it's allowed. If it's super elevated, if you're on the downhill side, it's okay. But if you're on the uphill side, it's not. I mean, just logistically, that would be just a pain to try to administer. But I mean, I think that the bigger issue, and my guess is that the concern from the previous DPW director had more to do with, the drainage structures get clogged with leaves. And you end up with ponding around those. You end up with ice, at times, and where in the roadway from that kind of runoff. And then I've seen it in other areas, other subdivisions where I've had. I mean, growing up, we discharge into the street, and all the catch basins in the fall got tangled up with leaves, and the first good hard freeze, you'd end up with ice in the road because of the runoff. So I think it's not just the drainage structures; there's some safety issues there as well, I think.
Yeah, just to Mark, you actually brought up two good points. So one thing, I mean, one, maintenance has to happen, whether right now, if it's Bob, maintaining the road as part of the private development. Clearly the catch basins need, on a regular basis. I know that they're not always, but that's a maintenance issue that just needs to happen. To get to your point on whether the road is crowned, super elevated, all this other type of stuff, it really shouldn't matter. The whole point of allowing for when you do your calculations of whether it's your stormwater calculations or even your drainage design, you have to take all of those considerations into account. So you have to understand, if it's crowned, how far the catch basin is going to be spread apart. If it's super elevated, how often do you have catch basins with the amount of spread? And that, when I say spread, I mean, so when it's raining and it's coming down, if it's pretty flat, you might have a big spread around that catch basin. You can only have it be so big before you either need a double catch basin, or you need more, or you need to, change the slope. So there's a bunch of different guidelines that allow you to design the road appropriately with allowing driveway runoffs all the time. I mean, it's very unique to have this in here where no driveways are allowed to discharge into a public right of way without picking up their own drainage. And I really the only aspect I see that is if you've got kind of a new house by itself that now, it's a wooded area. Now you're adding, a lot of pavement. Certainly that's an increase in runoff that they're not allowed to go into that. So they need to mitigate that. But in this instance, the stormwater as well as the drainage system.
Danielle?
Yeah.
Would my computer crap the bed, like, I don't even, maybe a quarter way through what I was saying. Did any of that come through?
Yeah, part of it did. And what I think I summarized from what your comment was, is you're concerned about the homeowners taking their own initiatives to try to fix the problem, and that it would be better to have them hold off and have Greg review, the current conditions and kind of come up with a plan and try to see if they can hold off on doing their own mitigation. Is that correct?
Perfect. Yes.
I
Thank
kind of
you.
read into what you were saying, but that's what I summarized from what you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Danielle.
Yes.
I think it's also important to note that, and I'm kind of going back to what you were saying about how when they're designing the drainage system, they're looking at the entire site, right? So under proposed conditions, the entire lot is already going to the drainage system. It's already being calculated in the sizing of that drainage system and in the watershed. So we're only talking about the driveway runoff, which is really, it almost seems, it just doesn't seem very practical to me that we're allowing for the entire yard area, the houses, in most cases, to drain to the public road, but not the driveway runoff. So I just thought that was an important comment to make.
And again, there's only 3 driveways that would be going into this.
Can I ask a question? This is a bylaw, right? I think this is a good discussion to have, but can we do anything with this tonight?
Yeah, I guess so what I was trying to start the conversation off is to say my interpretation of this is that number 3 under here is for new driveways for new houses, not part of a subdivision. And I would not apply this under the existing, the Keys Farm. And I think it's okay for them to allow runoff from their driveways onto the road, I guess it was my, and again, I'm giving you my interpretation of this. I know that past DPWs have interpreted it differently of the town. So this is where I think Bob is coming to in front of us to see if they can allow this for the driveways.
Do our subdivision, rules and regs or bylaws, do those reference these driveways and parking, or do they have their own?
No, I believe our subdivision rules and regs reference this. It may not be the bylaw, it may reference the rules and regulations for the driveway.
So that's how it kind of got pulled in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I could I weigh in on this?
Yeah.
Historically speaking, this wasn't, I do not believe this was always interpreted the way that the past DPW directors have been doing it, let's say for the last decade. I think prior to that, it was more interpreted like the chair has said, that if you have a drainage system that has been designed and approved as an integral part of the drainage system for a new subdivision road, that's not what this regulation was referring to. I mean, I sort of remember the day. I don't, but I'm saying it wasn't too long ago that this started becoming an issue and being applied. I want to say in my design experience, it was the Houghton Farm subdivision where this became an issue. Subdivisions before that we worked on, such as Northwoods, a long time ago, that was the early 2000s, that never came up. So I think that there's been different interpretations taken on this over time. And from a designer's standpoint, I think your board has the luxury of having having Danielle, who does this stuff the same as I do. From a designer's standpoint, it's a difficult interpretation that's been taken. It doesn't lead to the most efficient design, and it becomes, it actually it's contrary to, it makes it more difficult to manage runoff in certain instances. So that's just my 2 cents.
Thanks, Greg. So if there aren't, I guess I'd like to hear from the board if you are okay with my interpretation, or if you want to keep the existing interpretation, because I think there needs to be a motion to allow runoff, if you're okay with my interpretation of it, is to motion to allow runoff from the driveways onto the roadway. Or we leave it as is.
So Greg, with the new interpretation, then you would just redirect all of that water from lot 4 down onto the driveway and out into the street?
Well,
I mean, that's one way to get it off the slope.
yeah, what you end up having to do, Mark, is you end up having to.
No, I'm curious. I mean, it's
yeah.
You know, is that become just a default? You know, yeah, we'll take a hard situation, just pipe it to the street and let it go from there.
No, I think it's a case by case thing, and you have to look at it on a case by case basis. But what it ends up doing in certain situations is you almost force a low spot and direct runoff down the shoulder of the road to prevent it from going on the pavement, which in a sense is creating two parallel drainage paths when the one in the gutter has been designed to handle all the runoff from the upgraded area. So you're sort of, and you're putting it on a surface that's grass. It's not certainly as stable as the asphalt gutter on the road. So you're effectively creating an opportunity for erosion to occur by, and I'm sure that it wasn't intended to have that consequence. It's just sort of an unintended consequence that happens in certain circumstances, and we're finding that to be the case here.
And I think my guess is, sorry, Greg, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say, my guess intent of this is really to get at those small individual houses where they might be just one lot or two lots where they're, where it was all forested and now they're putting a house in a driveway, and they're not under rules and subdivision rules and regs, so they're not required on to meet their requirements. But this driveway and parking bylaw would require them to mitigate the runoff at just that lot.
That's exactly my sense. You do a new house lot on an existing road, right? You don't have to do any drainage calculations. You could have a significant amount of impervious area drained to the street for the driveway and the house. No drainage calculations required by your bylaw. This clearly protects against that situation where you have a road that wasn't designed for that, and it prevents it from negatively impacting an existing street. Seems to be perfectly appropriate in that context. But where we're having to, by your subdivision rules and regulations, to design a complete drainage system that includes the entire subdivision, it's just counterintuitive. The regulations are they're conflicting, I guess.
Sorry, we've got some background noise. If you're not speaking, if you don't mind muting, that would be great.
I don't think it's me. Sorry.
No, it was. I don't think it was you, Greg. All right, so I think we've kind of gone over this. I guess I'd like to hear from the board as to how they'd like to move forward with this.
I mean, obviously in this case, I think we want to do the right thing, which is to have it drain out into the road for those particular lots. I mean, as long as we are within our rights to do that as a board, based on the bylaws, then I'm okay with it. I mean, 7 and 8 in the bylaw gives us some flexibility.
Yeah.
Right. I know 8 is in a specific case, but the board does have the ability to grant waivers for some of these things. So
yeah, I think you're right, Mike. And I think that this is not even, I don't even think we're granting a waiver. I think we're just going with a different interpretation than it was done under the original design. I don't think it's incorrect though to I guess go with that.
Well, what I would say then is I'm okay with taking that interpretation for this, but as part of that, we should update whatever bylaw rules and regs to reflect that is our intention.
I see what you're saying.
Sub,
Yep.
Subdivisions.
We could, yeah, we
So-
could clarify this number 3, that it's really, you know, for those outside of the subdivision rules or something, you know, we can look at that
Yeah,
later.
that's what I would
see if
say.
there's
Bring
Gotcha.
bring it into conformance so we don't, you know, have these outlier houses where someone comes around and complains someday because they're discharging into the street.
Okay.
Do we want DPW to weigh in on this one? You know, if they have a rationale one way or the other for it? I mean, if they have a rationale for why they don't want it in a subdivision, you know, at all, you know, we should understand what that is before we make changes.
Well, I think, yeah, I think what we can do is maybe we vote on this tonight specifically for Keys Farm and our interpretation there and what we see in front of us. And then before we were to do any, you know, clarifications or modifications, you're right, Mark, we should have a quick conversation with DPW.
I'd rather have the conversation before we allow it anywhere. I mean, you know, I mean, I'm not sure why this is a special case. You know,
I think there's issues that are happening. I know at Lot 4, I believe Liz was mentioning, and when we saw it on the site visit, she was having a lot of erosion issues at the corner of her driveway by trying to divert the water into this swale system versus just allowing it to go into the driveway. So I think what we're having here is there's issues right now on this site because of this interpretation.
I mean, I'd say that's a design issue, not necessarily. I think before I'd be comfortable changing it, I want to, you know, and if DPW comes back and says, yeah, they don't see, you know, you're right, it's all sized appropriately, so it's not an issue. I'm fine with it. But you know, if they have issues with, you know, and they're the ones who are going to be maintaining it, whether, you know, so I'd prefer to hear from them first.
Anyone else have comments?
The only thing I'd like to add is if we were going to do that, we put the berm on when we, you know, it's only about 10 or 12 feet of berm. It's not going all the way up the driveway, Mark, okay, it's to catch it at the bottom. Okay, so.
You want to do that when you pave.
We'll have that opportunity to do it when we pave, but we won't have an opportunity to do it at a later date. But, you know, that shouldn't influence in anything. Okay, I'm just stating that.
Well, we could try to have, Eric, I don't know if we can have a conversation with DPW between now and the next hearing, so that way we could table this until the 28th.
We do not have a current acting DPW director, so I'm not exactly sure who I would contact.
What? Did he leave?
Yeah, so our current DPW director had been let go. So I can certainly, so right now, obviously our town administrator is filling in that role, but, and I could reach out to Don, but, you know, that's not specifically DPW.
I think for this case, we propose the motion tonight without a contingency, and then we can investigate this later.
So Mike, do you want to put forward a motion and we'll see if we have a second?
Yeah. So is the motion going to be to allow the specific, is it just lot 3 and 4?
I think it was 3, 4, and 5.
Right.
To allow runoff from the lots 3, 4, and 5, runoff from the driveways of lots 3, 4, and 5 into the roadway.
So I'll make a motion that we allow the stormwater runoff from the driveways of lots 3, 4, and 5 of Keys Farm to run off onto the road.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a second, so if we can do a roll call for those in favor.
All in favor by roll call? Chair Danielle Spicer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mike Gore,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
Mark Sprague,
No.
and Peter Driscoll.
No.
Actually, am I supposed to ask for excuse me, do I say ask for nays, or are their no's acceptable as just no's?
I think that's acceptable.
Okay, all
I
right.
believe so.
So if it's 3
I
to,
think you just need to ask for a vote.
okay, all right. So there's three yeses, 2 no's. Is that enough to approve it or no?
That is a majority of the board, so.
Okay, I just wanted to, sorry, verify that. Okay, so motion approved. I think that's it for Keys Farm, right?
Correct.
That's enough.
Hi, this
Thanks,
is
everybody.
Liz. No, wait.
Thank you all.
Wait. No one go anywhere. This is Liz. I want to be clear that we're not just like putting in an arbitrary berm on our driveway without addressing the fact that now we're going to have this ridiculous riprap swale that's completely useless on the side of our lot. So before any work is done, I just want to be clear that we are contacted and discussed and that we come to an agreement on exactly what's going to happen.
We'll just put it in the right of way, Liz. Okay, okay, which is about 10 feet up your driveway.
Okay, but that's not where the water is the problem, right? You realize that?
Yeah, but that's where we're gonna direct the water. Okay, it's the last 10 feet.
Oh, okay, but the water's coming into the riprap swale about 20 to 30 feet up the driveway, which is where the problem is starting, right? So we're just gonna ignore the fact that all that water is now gonna be going into riprap swale that's ineffective? I'm confused.
Yes, but, okay, what I want to say to you is, if you want us to put it up there, we will. If you don't want us to, we'll put it in the right of way. Okay, that's your property. That's what I've been maintaining. That's your property. All I want to do is direct as much or as little, okay, as water as, so certainly as much, okay, in the last, 10 feet. Okay, so that is really, to my mind, okay, a matter between you and I, okay, if you want us to do that. Okay, if you don't want us to, that's fine. And anybody else doesn't want us to, that's fine too. This was just a suggestion. Matter of fact, it just cost me money. If you don't want me to do it, I have no issue with it at all.
That's not what I said. I want you to do it. I want the berm and I want it all the way where the riprap swale is currently. But my point is there's a riprap swale there. So you're just going to leave that.
Then you and I need to talk about that. That's not a planning board issue.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Move on.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you all.
Appreciate the time
Thank
this
you.
evening.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're, oh, we just have approval of meeting minutes from September 9th and 17th.
You don't have me present at the September 9th meeting, but I'm making motions and doing things there, so I was there.
Okay. My apologies. I will update that.
Otherwise, it's fine.
Okay, I'll move that we approve the minutes from September 9th and September 17th as amended by Mike.
Second.
All those in favor? I can start. Danielle Spicer, aye.
Michael Gore, aye.
Mark Sprague, aye.
Eric Neal and I.
Pete Driscoll. I'll abstain because I wasn't present for either of those.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Thanks, guys. I know
All
that was
right.
a long one.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.